Good afternoon, everybody. It is Friday, February 20th, 2026. This is a regular meeting of the Commissioners of the City of Rehoboth Beach. We're live in the Commissioners' Room, City Hall, second floor. Welcome. I'd like to call this meeting to order at exactly 2 o'clock p.m. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Instead of calling roll call, we'll let the record reflect that the mayor and all the commissioners are here. Therefore, we have a quorum and are able to formally conduct business tonight. I'd like to thank everybody that's here virtually, watching on the cameras. Hello, and also thank everybody that's here in person. We welcome input from you at certain times of the meeting. If you look at the bottom of the agenda, there are the rules for engagement. We'd also like to point out that support documents, those are documents that support each agenda item when they're ready ahead of time, are embedded into the agenda so that you can see all the support documents that we are able to see up here. With that, the correspondence is also embedded in the agenda, and so we don't typically read it. There's something from David Pollock. There's also some other letters that we've got that will be embedded after the fact into the agenda because they were received late. With that, we're moving on to approval of the minutes. Today we have actually 31 sets of minutes to approve. Are there the one set of minutes that is not ready that's listed on the agenda is a special meeting held on January 23rd, 2025. January 23rd, 2025 is not yet ready. Subtracting that out from the 32 listed there yields 31 sets of minutes for approval. Are there any corrections to any of the minutes? If not, I would take a motion to approve the 31 sets of minutes in front of us.
So moved.
Mayor, if I may make a comment before the
Yes.
vote. I just note that many of these are quite old, which is fine. But I know that we have contracted out for many of these to be updated. But just the content of them certainly doesn't reflect the normal aspect of our recording secretary here in the city. It just, the content is there, but it's certainly not as expressed in specifics and capturing exactly what's going on in many of the meetings. But I will move to approve all the sets of minutes as described, except January 23rd, 2025.
We had a motion by Mark. Mark will withdraw his motion and then second it. So we have a motion by Commissioner Patrick Gossett and a second by Commissioner Mark Saunders to approve the 31 sets of minutes in front of us, accepting the minutes noted in the agenda as for January 23rd, 2025. Is there any discussion further?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Good?
just some clarification. I did receive the email or the memo explaining, which seemed like a good idea, that we were going to catch up and then henceforth have the minutes available in a much more timely manner after any given meeting. I'm hearing Commissioner Gossett say something new. I just want to know whether, I didn't notice a change in the tone or the format. To whom are we contracting now to produce the minutes, whereas Ms. Womack, in the past had been responsible for that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so Commissioner Good, so what had occurred, the city had, dozens and dozens of minutes that were not completed, so we did contract out with a firm that specializes in municipal minutes to get us caught up. So this will bring us almost there. At our next meeting, we should have about 6 to 7 minutes remaining to get us 1,000% caught up. And then our plan moving forward is So today we're having a regular meeting, so at the next regular meeting, we would have the minutes for this meeting prepared and ready for your consideration. So it would be 1 month from today, you'll have the minutes for this meeting.
So this is a one-time decision to catch up by contracting out production of the minutes, but do you anticipate beginning, say, February of 2026, we can do the minutes with the 2 full-time employees?
You're correct. So Marco handles the commissioner meetings that were previously called workshops, and then Ms. Womack covers the regular meetings.
And was this expense under $10,000 to produce those like 2 or 3 years worth of minutes?
I'll have to double check, yeah.
Okay, let me know. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second in front of us to approve the minutes as noted. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and the 31 sets of minutes are approved. Thank you very much. With that, we move right on to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Good afternoon. So in honor of the city's wondrous tree canopy, the city was recognized as a tree city by the Arbor Day Foundation for our 35th consecutive year. So that's very, very momentous occasion. The Rehoboth Beach 911 Communications Center has also been recognized by the International Academies of Emergency Dispatch as an accredited center for excellence for emergency medical dispatching, police and fire. Achieving that excellent status requires meeting rigorous national standards for emergency call handling and quality assurance. So we're very happy of our dispatch center. I also want to congratulate 2 of our employees. So Mike Clow of the Water Department passed his CDL test, and that training was performed in-house. And also congratulations to Brandon Johnson, who passed his Level 1 wastewater operator exam. He recently had transferred from the Streets Department to the Wastewater Department last year. The city also just applied for a $50,000 matching surface water matching planning grant to DENREC for potential stormwater modifications at the Lake Avenue and Lakeview Street, which is in the fiscal year 2027 budget, but that got sent off yesterday. And keeping an eye on the weather to determine what preparations and actions could be needed for the potential storm this weekend. So we just ask that people monitor our website and sign up for our alerts that the city sends out for any information on roads and trash pickup, things of that nature. The last thing that I want to talk about is the city is moving forward with modernizing zoning and land use mapping through GIS support with Wallace Montgomery. This work will kick off in April, and the first major milestone will be creating a new accurate zoning district data set based on Sussex County parcel data. Once that data set is finalized and reviewed, the city will build an interactive web mapping application so that staff and residents can easily view zoning information online. So this is our zoning map. And following that, an updated existing land use layer will then be developed to align with the comprehensive development plan, setting the stage for future land use planning. Additional milestones include integrating our GIS resources that we already have with the city's Munis ERP system to improve data analysis and reporting, creating standardized map templates and consistent visuals across all of our city maps. And these steps will make zoning and land use data more accessible, accurate, and useful for planning decisions and members of the public. Work will proceed in phases with draft data sets and web apps reviewed and revised along the way, ensuring everything's ready for our CDP update later in FY27. That concludes my report for today, but I'm here for any questions you may have.
Any questions of the city manager? If not, we'll move right on. Our next item is city solicitor's report.
It's nice to see everyone. It's nice to be back for one meeting. And Mayor, I have no report.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll move on to departmental reports. Scheduled for tonight is Recreation Department, Tim Bamforth.
Right. I'd like to thank everyone for inviting me. 25 years ago, before children, I attended a lot of these meetings. But thank you for having me. So you have in front of you the rack card that we did last year, front and back. And you also have a list of statistics that I have put together every year. At the end of the summer, I update the numbers for the Recreation Department. So my job is to bring families and kids to Rehoboth Beach in the summertime. Most of our programs are at the Grove Park, but we also do a few programs at the Stokely facility as well, and we have a playground at Lake Gerard as well. But most of ours centered at Grove Park. So I'm not 100% sure what questions you have or where I should go with this, but I guess we can open the floor up if you have any questions for me.
In the old days, before dunes, we used to have, volleyball on the beach and juggling and things like that. Have we displaced that to other areas where the beach is wider?
Unfortunately, the juggler that we have used for years, we used them all through the 90s, passed away around 2002, 2003. And it was difficult to shut down the bandstand for those programs. It was a Tuesday night program, and it was clowns and jugglers on the beat, or on the at the bandstand, and we just felt like Grove Park might be a better spot to have it. So last year we didn't have it. We had a magic show. Jack Knoll, if you're familiar with him, he has produced magic shows for us. I think last year he did 2 magic shows. But the clowns and jugglers we did not have last season. I'm hoping this year we can bring back some.
And so these numbers up here are attendance numbers?
Those are attendance numbers. Those are numbers that I updated. You can see the arts and crafts program is by far the most popular program for kids in the city and families. We have people come from all over to attend that program. You can see from 2018, our average went from 10 to last summer was 42 people with a high of 61. On usually 4th of July weekend is our most biggest numbers.
And so who are the Recreation Department facilitators? Is it plural?
The contracted service folks?
Is it just you, yeah?
Or the people in my...
That are actually running the program?
You're looking at them.
It's one person, it's you, okay.
It is now, yeah.
Okay.
Now, at one time I had 9 employees because we handled Deauville Beach. But that stopped a few years back. Mm-hmm. So those employees are no longer with me.
Very good. Commissioner Gossett, I think you're the one that asked for
Yeah, I was
this.
just kind of curious if, and thank you for the statistics. I'm glad we were doing that. Just curious, are there fees involved for this, or and if there are, kind of give a quick description of that.
Yeah, there is no fees for the programs. We do pay the contracted service folks a minimum amount. Usually, I have such good rapport with them that I get them much cheaper than they charge other folks.
Sure.
Jack Knoll's a good example. He does magic shows for us for $80, and he'll go somewhere else for $200. So, because he's been with us so long. But there's not a fee for arts and crafts or kite making. We do partner with some folks. So for instance, for the kite making at Grove Park, which has been very popular the last couple of years, I partner with Rehoboth Toy and Kite, and they supply all the kites and all the supplies. So it doesn't cost us anything for supplies. And also, we partner with Todd Fritchman with Envirotech, and we do a touch tank. And they usually charge people to go out and do that, and they don't charge us for that. So that doesn't cost us either.
Great.
So really, we're just paying for the instructors to come in and perform the activity.
That's a great community service. That's fine. Thank you. And also on your numbers there, you ever record if the attendees are from the city or outside the city?
I do. I think we're about 60-40, like 60% visitors and 40% locals. Maybe not from Rehoboth Beach. I think Dewey Beach and Lewis, a lot of participation come from those two cities as well. But I think it's about 60-40. We have a lot of kids that come off the Rehoboth Beach Patrol Junior Lifeguard Program that ends at 9 o'clock, I believe, and they come off the beach and they stop at the Grove Park and participate in what we have to offer.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Galante?
Yeah, hi, thanks for the rec card in particular. I'm curious, is your schedule of 2026 events scheduled? And do you have those available?
I do not have it available yet. It usually goes to press like April 1st, but I should have it in April.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Mayor.
Commissioner Good?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Banforth. I've seen firsthand the success of
You're
your
right.
programs. I just wanted to confirm that you've shared your brochure with the major realtors so they can provide it on Saturday, well, usually on Saturdays. to
Right,
their,
we do.
Client, great.
I make it available to Lingo and to Gallo,
That's great.
and they put it in there. I also make it available to the hotels, and it's in the lobby of the hotels as well as in the bags that is put together. And this year, I hope to work more with the chamber and make it available to them. But it's once that card comes out, it's pretty much all over town.
Very good. Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming today. With that, we'll move on. If you notice in the agenda that the Alderman's Court report, Building and Licensing report, Police Department report, Planning Commission report are all embedded electronically into the agenda, so we don't need to read those. Next up is committee reports, including possible consideration of approving future advisory committee agenda topics. There's two items here. One is the Rehoboth Beach Boardwalk Historic Designation Task Force. If you recall, this task force was charged by the Board of Commissioners to seek out two particular historic designations for the boardwalk, one sponsored by the Delaware Public Archives. That's one of those blue historical markers that we see throughout the town and the state. The other historic designation is a national level, and it's the National Register of Historic Places. This committee has its first task force meeting this coming Tuesday, February 24th at 9 o'clock in this room, and that's what I wanted to announce to you. With that, our next item on here is, you'll notice embedded in the agenda, is an agenda item report on traffic calming recommendations from the City Streets and Safety Advisory Committee. Commissioner Saunders?
Thank you, everybody. As you probably know, the City Streets and Safety Advisory Committee has been meeting now since November. One of our priority topics was to come up with some suggestions that we would make that could be implemented within 90 days, particularly having to do with traffic calming on some of our main streets, State, Hennepin, Columbia, and Bayard. And so in that vein, we have met with the public. We've had 3 meetings. We've met with staff, and we've also had a meeting with a DelDOT representative who was very helpful to us. With that said, we've made several suggestions that we would like to put forth for consideration of this board. Again, please keep in mind, these are 90-day suggestions, things that we think can be done quickly. We know there's more to do, but we need a little bit more time. We're going to be meeting with the police chief and some other individuals to see what we can come up with as long-term solutions to the problem of speeding, particularly on those streets. And I will just quickly go over the suggestions that we make as 90-day suggestions. We would like to install additional speed limit signage on the heavily traveled streets with special emphasis on State, Hennepin, and Columbia. If anybody has ever gotten off of Route 1 and come around under the bridge onto State Street, there's not a sign to tell you how fast you can go. Of course, it's 25, but there is no speed limit sign there until all the way down almost to Rehoboth Avenue. It's close to the corner of Munson. So that's just an example of where we could do something so easily by putting up some speed signs. As you know, this commission has agreed to purchase 6 additional electronic signs which give you your speed and what the speed should be, and hopefully some of those signs can be installed. Again, this is something that we hope to be able to talk to Police Chief Banks and Mr. Tedder, and between all of us, get some solutions there. Second one is install a permanent on a rotating basis the speed readers that we were just talking about. Particular emphasis, State, Hennepin, Columbia. By the way, for those that don't know, Columbia and State are DelDOT streets. We don't own those streets, we maintain them, but we must do any changes that we make must be run through DelDOT. Although I will say, we met with the gentleman from DelDOT, and he was very cooperative, he was very sympathetic to our problem, and went so far as to offer us other suggestions which we've implemented and considered. Paint driveway boxes. If you don't know what a driveway box is, it's a simple box painted on the street in front of your driveway. It goes out like one car. It almost looks like a yellow parking space. This was a suggestion made by the DelDOT representative. The theory is that once the boxes are painted in front of set driveways, and I'll explain what a set driveway is in a moment, that a driver driving down the street sees these and it slows them down because they suspect that there's more activity. It's not a freeway, it's not the highway. There are houses and there are cars, and it just informs them on a mental level that they need to watch where they're going. By the way, we realize that some of our streets, particularly some on Columbia, but more on Hennepin, don't have set driveways. So this is something that we want to implement where it's possible and where it's feasible and where the owner has no objection. As you know, over on Hennepin, very often you can't tell where a driveway is and where the lawn starts, so those would be not useful to this particular method of calming. We'd like to paint a center strip or repaint those that have faded on State, Hennepin, and Columbia. Actually, Columbia has a strip, but it hasn't been painted in a good number of years. It has some weeds growing through it where the crack is and so forth. So just a little bit of attention to those. Again, it's the same theory that if it's a divided street, it doesn't look so much like a highway. And hopefully the drivers will respect it by slowing down their speed a little bit. Install painted crosswalks on Baird Avenue wherever none exist, and wherever practical. Baird is a street that has a good number of people crossing it. And because of the center islands, they sort of make a run for the island. And we think a better idea would be to run for the corner. And we think that if we had painted crosswalks at all of the corners on Baird, it would get a little more attention from both the drivers as well as the pedestrians, safety-wise. So we're suggesting that. There are some, but in some cases they're only in one direction. And in those cases, we'd like it to go to both directions. And lastly, we'd like to form a group of commissioners and members of our committee and the police chief and some of his staff to talk about enforcement and where we could do a little bit more maybe with some regular enforcement on some of the heavily traveled streets, particularly those that have some speeding. There's no doubt that when we have a police presence on those streets, the traffic is slower. But the question, of course, is we can't be everywhere all the time. So we'd like to meet with the chief and see if maybe we need to maybe up the fines or create more fines and less warnings, or what we have to do to give ourselves a reputation, if you will, of giving tickets to those that deserve them. So those are our suggestions. The CDP, by the way, as we always mention, has safety and pedestrian-friendly streets. They're considered high priority, so that we hope that between now and the next meeting that the commissioners will consider these and give us the go-ahead to go forward.
Per committee protocol, this is not the time to be debating these recommendations, but for the Board of Commissioners to receive them. And the actions that can be taken out of that today is that the commissioners can say it is ready to go and be put on the regular Board of Commissioners agenda so that it can be advertised as such, and we get a greater response from the members of the public. But the other option could be that we acknowledge receipt of it, and we'd like to send it to the city manager, city staff, city police for further examination, analysis, and come back with their recommendations. And I would say for this particular set of recommendations, if we could look at your calendar and come back at the very next meeting, I think it would be helpful for determining what can be done within the 90-day period. Do you want to say what is the value of that you can provide for this process?
Sure, and looking at these recommendations, I don't see anything here that's jumping out at me as something that we can't do, but really it comes down to timing, resources, and if we would need to outsource any of these things to meet whatever timeline you'd like. So we definitely could put that information together and have it back here at the next meeting if that's what you prefer.
Anybody?
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
That sounds like a good plan. I was hoping on just, I don't want to get, I know you don't want us to get too specific, but I think for number 4, could we get more feedback from the chief of police and his officers because of, mainly because of the move-over law in Delaware that motorists only have to give bicyclists and pedestrians 3 feet of berth, like when they pass. And just concern about if you were to have a solid line in the middle, whether that would cause drivers to hesitate. They're allowed to go over into the oncoming lane as long as it's totally clear and it's safe to do so. But I just would like some feedback from the police and others with experiences to how that impacts drivers making a decision whether to go into the oncoming lane to give the bicyclist or pedestrian a higher margin of safety. 3 feet is not a lot if you're on a bike and a car is coming past you 3 feet away. I wish it were more like 5 or 6 feet, but it's not in Delaware.
Can I just say that you're absolutely right, and we hope to incorporate the police chief in what you're suggesting. And just a little call out that the committee is currently working on a slew of good bicycle considerations that we're going to be taking to you soon. So the bicycle topic is on its way.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Galani?
So I'm looking at my calendar and I'm sort of projecting out 90 days from the next time we would vote on this. And hearkening back to when this was originally brought to the Board of Commissioners, we actually approved an agenda for the advisory committee, which included these measures. As I look at the work that Mark and his committee have put forth, and I've attended some of those meetings, I think it's very reasoned. They make sense. They seem to be low-hanging fruit. Just hearkening back to the amount of correspondence that the city has received in the last 2 to 4 weeks on this topic, there is a clear and growing demand for these traffic calming initiatives and improvements. And back when we discussed this in December, I was really emphatic that I wanted to make sure that we had these things installed by May 15th. And now if you're saying we're going to wait to vote on this until March 9th, projecting out 90 days, now all of a sudden we're into June, July, it just doesn't make sense. I don't understand why we can't take action on this right now.
Taylor explained the value of having staff and himself and the chief of police analyzing it. I agree with that. I think that's a vital step in our committee protocol to be able to give them a chance to answer questions. That doesn't mean everything has to be pushed out to 90 days. Some things, but in fact, I would expect that they come back with their analysis and give us what time frame they can make, and it may be much less than that. So, anybody else?
Yeah.
You want to follow up or?
Did you want to follow up? Did you have a follow-up? Yeah,
Commissioner
so
Thayer?
I'm not going to repeat what Commissioner Galante said. I'm just going to echo what he said, because that wasn't, when we established these committees, it wasn't the intent. It was not, at least from my perspective, and I think I'm not going to misinterpret, I'll let him speak for himself, was that we were not going to come back here, the committee chairs were not going to come back and then jump through multiple hoops and maybe 6 months later we get some stuff done. So that's my concern. My question to Mark is, you used the term suggestions. So what was your expectation to come out of today? Maybe just not yours, right? You've got 8 other members on the committee, and that's one of the things I'm trying to be conscious of. People are committing their time to these committees. They're very enthusiastic about participating. They're very enthusiastic about the topics. But if we want to very quickly, eliminate that enthusiasm, then let's just not get stuff done, and they won't participate anymore. So what was your expectation today? You used the term suggestions, but what was the expectation of you and of your committee members?
We agreed with the term low-hanging fruit that was made by Commissioner Galante. Unless somebody here has an objection to them, we would like to start the meeting, starting with Mr. Tedder and Police Chief Banks and the mayor. And there'd be no harm, we think, in starting the meetings and going forward with what can be done. Anything that requires a motion, of course, we bring back to you folks. But looking at it, I'm not sure if there's too much there that really needs a motion. I look at Mr.
Mayor, if I
Tedder
could.
for that.
Mayor, if I
Commissioner
could.
Thayer?
Yeah, Mark, I agree with you, right? I'm not sure that there's any of these things require a motion. I think it's probably some head nods and some action. If I had any concern here, I don't want to say if I had any concern, but one of the concerns I would have is, this requires staff time. And, in specifically, painting boxes, painting streets, whatever it may be. And I know we're getting into that time of year where people are, everyone's always busy, but there's a lot of focus on preparing for the summer season. So one of the things I want to make sure is that we're not asking you to do additional things, which means other things don't get done that, you may feel are a higher priority, or maybe some of us feel is our higher priority. So any feedback on that?
I would say ultimately most of these things will be easy to do to just go out and do. I think the driveway boxes might be a little more complex. That might take a lot more planning and time and effort. But again, it's achievable. The speed signs, those are included in the FY27 budget, which takes effect in April. So we would order those somewhere around that time. So I'm not sure when those will come in. But ultimately, additional signage, a week or two, yeah. So, we could go out and do these things if you want to just direct me to move forward as practicable, but putting a time constraint on all of them would be perhaps not achievable.
So what I would say is that I'd like you to move forward as practical, okay? And I think, Mark, that's what you were asking for?
Of course, yeah. We
Okay,
would like
not to put words in your mouth, but I think that's what you're asking for. I'd say, move forward as practical, and at the next meeting, if you can come back to us with just a report on where you're at. Commissioner Galante, I'm just going to kind of look down to you. Are you okay with that?
I am. That sounds good. I also just wanted to add that I volunteer to be part of the additional committee to work with the chief on enforcement mechanisms and optimizing that part of the recommendations.
Well,
I would say with number save, just real quick. I know Mr. Walton's here, so I don't know if he wants to comment on this or not. And this is normally where I'd look to Ms. Ogden and say, okay, what FOIA considerations do we have here, if any? I don't know if you're comfortable answering that question at this point.
I am not. I got to say, I don't know enough about what the committee structure would look like. If it's
Okay.
sort of one person going in and talking, I'd say that's not a problem. But if it's a formalized committee, I think that FOIA has been, at least the DAGs have been pretty strenuous in their enforcement of committees. But that's a minor kind of thing because we just post an agenda and then have the meeting. So
Okay. And that would have been my interpretation, right? When we talk about 3 and something that looks like a formalized meeting, it probably requires FOIA. So again, I would just look back to, and again, Mark, I'll look to you. I'd look back to Mr. Tedder to work with Ms. Ogden to see what is practical for number 6. Is that okay?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
We have 9 people on our committee that are all eager and willing to participate if need be. So we have volunteers, as many volunteers as we would need to be practical.
And Mark, just to be clear, right, because I don't want to be misunderstood up here as being a barrier to number 6, my concern is just about FOIA and making sure that we abide by whatever FOIA
I
requires
think
to
we're
do.
safe
So,
if it's just a couple of, we don't need a committee of 8. We need a committee of 3 or 4 perhaps. Perhaps the mayor, Mr. Tedder, and myself, and
Why don't we give you, let me talk with,
Mrs. Stewart.
let me talk with Lisa, and we'll give you I'll put it in my notes, and then we'll handle that.
okay, perfect, thank you.
My suggestion would be that you meet as soon as possible so that, and make note that March 3rd is the deadline for posting the agendas, so that if you met and there was something came up that you thought needed to be voted on, then we could get it on the next agenda.
Okay.
Commissioner Stewart?
I'm
Stewart?
thoroughly confused and don't understand why we have to vote on this. This is March will be you're suggesting we vote on it a month from now? March will be the 3rd time we discuss this. Am I wrong? Am I missing something?
No, I think I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Hold on. No, you hold on. Wait. The mayor was suggesting something about the next meeting and how the date by things need to be posted, which suggested to me that you think there's going to be another meeting on this. And I'm trying to get us to move forward. I don't think there needs to be a vote on this. This will be the 2nd time we've discussed it. It seems to be in ministerial functions. And I think, I believe Mr. Galanti and I concur that we want to get moving on this. There's broad public support. I don't know why commissioners are voting on putting stripes down streets.
So my impression from what this board has said right now is we are moving forward, and I believe the mayor was referencing if we needed to notice a committee meeting.
Mr. Mayor? So
Commissioner Good?
So I share some, disappointment that we're going to be this inefficient. So could we, for instance, all but maybe 2 of these 6 items are non-controversial, and for instance, with the painting the crosswalks on Bayard, yeah, time is of the essence as the weather warms in March. Could we at least make a decision that maybe, let's say, 4 out of the 6 could be undertaken as soon as possible? Like if we all, because the committee has recommended them, and there doesn't seem to be any point to taking the chief's time and having more committee discussions on them and to advance safety by like April 15th or May 1st, when, there are more people here who would benefit from them.
What I've heard, I believe, is already a signal to move forward. Approve moving forward as a practical. I think that's it, period. It's moot.
Yeah, and Taylor's going to come back to us at the next meeting with an update. The only one on here that is number 6, right, which, as Mr. Walton had said, he'll work with Ms. Ogden. The concern here is, do we have any FOIA considerations, right? Otherwise, 1 through 5, and seeing a shake yes to the head, you're going to move forward with 1 to 5, come back to the next meeting and update us.
Correct.
We'll wait to hear from Ms. Ogden in regard to meeting with and in the worst case scenario, it would be 3 of us, from different, that's the worst case.
So I'd like to go to the members of the public, as we will be offering opportunities for comment throughout. I want to remind everybody to please wait to be acknowledged by the chair and given the floor. And when a member of the public is recognized, then please come to the center microphone, state your name and address or relationship to the city, and direct your remarks to the board up here. Everyone gets 3 minutes so we can hear from as many voices as possible. And the countdown clock is on the wall above the monitor and will beep when time is up. So plan what you have to say. And this is applicable throughout the whole meeting. And so while we're there, is there anybody in the public, Carolyn, that would like to speak, obviously, on this topic?
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. The only thing I'm going to say is on the driveway boxes, I'm guessing that you all on Munson did not have a choice. They were painted. I'm not sure why you're either going to paint them or you're not, in my mind. Why would you give a homeowner an option to not have one? If you have driveways that aren't clearly delineated, and so you're limiting parking because somebody thinks the whole front of the house is the driveway, I think that's even more of a reason to paint the boxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Anybody else? All right, back to the commissioner. So we have a plan to move forward.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, 1 second.
Commissioner Gossett.
Thank you. Yeah, we talked about this in December extensively, and I think there was even a list that we discussed of specific streets to add the crosswalks on King Charles, talking about four-way stop signs at certain intersections on King Charles, on Columbia, and on Henlopen. We have a petition that has been brought forward by homeowners and residents in the Pine section regarding those two. So I think, action needed to be taken in December. We haven't accomplished that. So as I understand it, we are going to have some action taken on at least five of the six of these points that were also brought up in December. I'm kind of at a loss for words in the sense of why we have taken so long to enact any of these at this point, and just a frustrating process. I know things get bogged down, but these are seasonal activities that we need to focus on and react to our residents and their concerns. So I would hope by the next meeting that we have in March that we not only have a list of what is to be accomplished, but what has been accomplished in the 30 days between now and the next meeting. And I think some of these certainly could be done in that period of time. One of the additions, if I may, on talking about the painting of the lines on Columbia and Henlopen and State, there's also the white lines on the side of the road. They should also be looked at to be repainted also, because that sets a definition of the width of the road, and also as a traffic slowing device that is used in many areas. And we have painted them sometimes, and sometimes we have not painted it. And the driveway boxes are in place on Lake Avenue, if anybody needs to go and see an example of what they are. Between the old Starbucks and Bad Hair Day, that revision of Lake Avenue approximately 3 or 4 years ago, driveway boxes have been installed there and have been effective. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, we've got some marching orders there. Next on the agenda is community partner reports. They're actually submitted electronically and embedded in the agenda, and I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce, Main Street, and Public Library for their reports you can find in there. With that, we're going to move along to items number 12 and 13 on the agenda. You have your... I'm good. The next two agenda topics involve restaurants that want to serve alcohol. The first public hearing is for an amended permit of compliance request by Robert Frankus of Dynami LLC to modify the floor plan of an existing restaurant to be known as The Dunes, which was previously known as Baja Bob's, pursuant to Municipal Code Section 21511, modifications of floor plan. The restaurant is located at 105 South Boardwalk. I'd like to introduce Max Walton to explain the process and list the exhibits.
So give me just a moment, Mayor, because I just want to do a little housekeeping. And I'm much better prepared than the first time I had to do one of these. So a permit of compliance hearing is required whenever a restaurant wants to serve alcohol. This is a time when this permit of compliance outlined by the mayor had been publicly noticed for a hearing. It was noticed in the Cape Gazette and the Delaware State News, as I understand, on Friday, January 30th, 2026. Ann Womack, can you confirm that the publication was done and that the residents within 200 feet were notified? Okay, super. I'd like to sort of go ahead and make a record, do the lawyer thing. And so I'll make the record by saying that if you go to the agenda under item 12, there are a number of things there that includes the building inspector's report, the application for the permit of compliance, and a lot of other things, floor plans, et cetera. I'm going to just say that we have marked those, and those will all be part of the record for this particular proceeding. Excuse me, and for the public, what we intend to do today is to review the statute, and then the commissioners, and then Corey will go ahead and have the floor with the commissioners, for the commissioners to ask questions. Then the applicant will be given the floor. You can ask him questions, and then there will be public comment. For those who are not familiar with this process, I just thought I ought to go over at least one time, at least for the first one, Section 5 of Chapter 215, which states, "No applicant shall receive a permit of compliance or a supplemental permit of compliance from the city until after a public hearing, at which hearing interested parties and citizens shall have an opportunity to be heard. A permit of compliance or supplemental permit of compliance shall not be issued to the applicant or to the Delaware ABC except by the favorable vote of majority of the members of the city commissioners. In reaching its decision or their decision, the commissioners shall consider the following factors, including not limited to whether the applicant has demonstrated that the establishment's primary purpose will be that of a restaurant or dinner theater as defined by the chapter, whether the establishment meets all of the city's applicable zoning and licensing provisions, whether the establishment would be a detriment to the peace, order, and quiet of the neighborhood and the city. 4, whether the establishment will have an adverse impact on the neighboring properties or on the city of Rehoboth Beach, considering the impact on traffic, parking, and noise. And 5, whether the applicant had made any false representations or statements to the city employees or the commissioners in order to induce or prevent action by the city, not only in regard to the pertinent pending application under this chapter, but also in regard to the issuance of a building permit or business license for the subject establishment. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the building inspector's report has been placed into the record. And beyond that, Corey, I just wanted to ask you, do you have anything that you want to add or state?
The only thing I'd like to add or to state is just to reconfirm that this particular amended permit of compliance had a prior variance associated with it. That was Board of Adjustment case number 0424-04. And I can confirm on the record that the amended permit of compliance you see before you today complies with that variance.
So one quick question I like to ask. These guys make the decision, but in your view, does this application meet the requirements of the city code?
Yes, it does.
And then Mayor, do you want to ask the commissioners?
I'd like to ask the commissioners, do you have any questions of the building inspector at this time? If not, we'll invite the applicant to the lectern and to introduce yourselves. Or you want to sit there? Sit there, you're fine. Just everybody sees the back of your head.
You know, sometimes I'm standing back there, sometimes up here.
Yeah, that's fine. Just make sure you talk close to the microphone and
Yeah.
introduce yourself if you would.
Robert Frankus, I'm the sole member of Dynami LLC.
Right. This is your opportunity to sell your place to us, or or possibly later answer any questions. Do you have anything you want to?
Well, I think the purpose of this is to take away a counter that was initially designed into the restaurant that was then later determined not in compliance with the initial approved use prior to opening. So we had to change the business model, and all that's doing is taking this square footage and converting it from a counter space to seating, in essence. And then on the other side, if you look on the floor plan, there's some service space that was like self-serve type styles area that we turned into a seating area. That's the purpose of the change of floor plan. We did not change square footage, adding square feet. We are in compliance with the special exception that was granted to us in doing these changes.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Francis. Are there any questions of the applicant by the commissioners? If not, then I want to remind everybody, this is a public hearing. So we'll now open for public comment. If you would like to say something, raise your hand, and when acknowledged, please come forward to the lectern. Anybody? I read that as a good sign, not ominous, not ominous at all. In that case, I'm going to close the public comment portion of this public hearing and bring it back to the commissioners. Is there any further discussion, or else I will entertain a motion? Anybody?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to grant a permit of compliance and a dining, or permit of compliance. I find the following to be true. The proper application for restaurant permit of compliance has been submitted, has been filed, that a proper fee has been paid, that the proper notifications have been made, that all parties wishing to be heard have been heard, that the primary purpose of the restaurant, based on their application and menu, is of a restaurant, that the restaurant would not be a detriment to the peace, order, and quiet of the neighborhood and the city, that the restaurant will not have an adverse impact on the neighborhood, neighboring properties, or on the city of Rehoboth Beach, considering the impact on traffic, parking, and noise, and the applicant has made no false statements to the city employees or to the commission.
Seconded. We have a motion by Commissioner Patrick Gossett and a second by Commissioner Mark Saunders to grant the restaurant permit of compliance to the Dunes based on the criteria in front of us. Is there any further discussion? If not, Commissioner Galante?
Aye for approval.
Commissioner Good?
Aye.
Commissioner Saunders?
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett?
Aye.
Commissioner Thier?
Yes.
Commissioner Susan Stewart?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and the motion's carried unanimously. Congratulations. The city manager will probably issue something Monday or the first of next week. And so you don't have to hang around if you don't want.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let us get set up. Is there anybody here representing the second applicant for the CHAG? Would you like to come forward? Hello, welcome.
Hi.
The second public hearing is for permit of compliance and supplemental permit of compliance request by Christine Minnick of the CHAG LLC to operate a new restaurant serving alcoholic beverages with a patio to be known as the CHAG Champagne Lounge pursuant to the Municipal Code, Chapter 215, Restaurants, and Section 270-19, Use Restrictions, Patios. The restaurant will be located at 46 Baltimore Avenue. For your orientation, the restaurant is located on the south side of Baltimore Avenue where It's a Rough Life retail store used to be. And I'm going to turn it back over to the city solicitor.
You'll be thankful I'll be shorter the second time. So just like before, a permit of compliance is required whenever a restaurant wants to serve alcohol, and including when they want a supplemental permit of compliance allowing them to operate an outside dining patio with alcohol service. This is the time when it has been publicly noticed for a hearing. And it's my understanding that it was noticed in the Cape Gazette and the Delaware State News both on Friday, January 30th. Ms. Womack, can you confirm that happened? Correct. And can you confirm that residents within 200 feet were notified? Correct. All right, so again, I'm going to make a record because that's what lawyers do, but in a non-traditional matter, if you look under item 13 of your agenda, it has the public notices, the building inspector's report, et cetera. So I'm going to place all of the items under item 13 of the agenda into the record as exhibits for this hearing, and they are all incorporated into the hearing record. I am not going to reread section 215-5 again. Exactly the same standards apply, and so I'd like to. One of the items that were placed in the record was the building inspector's report, and that's part of the record here. Corey, do you have anything you'd like to point out or add with respect to this application?
Thank you, Mr. Walton. I would just like to go on record and say the report shows that this shows general compliance and that the building inspector recommends this be approved. There was one thing I'd like to say, and this can be probably better suited if you have questions towards the applicant. There's a compliance with Rehoboth Beach full meal compliance that was received yesterday. I've had a chance to look it over. It looks somewhat similar to what we reviewed under the menu. And as my report states, under 1B, the restaurant is a sit-down table service establishment that provides complete chef-prepared meals and hot entrees in addition to appetizers and small plates. And I believe, generally speaking, I would still attribute this to that description.
So maybe because it's been a while since I've been here, but I received those and neglected to put them in. So I'm going to add this Sea Hag Champagne Lounge that was received, this piece of paper, menu updated February of this year, 26, and our certificate of liability insurance. I'm going to add those to make those part of the record. I think you stated this, but I just wanted to make it clear. While the commissioners are the final decision makers on compliance, in your estimation, Corey, does this application meet the requirements of the code?
Yes, it does.
Very good. So at this point, I come back to the commissioners. Do you have any questions of the building inspector? Commissioner Gossett?
I do, thank you. Just for the record and for permanent compliance seating, we have two documents before us. One is the Building and Licensing Department calculations, and another one is marked received January 22nd. One is reflective of the appropriate number of seats, so I'm just curious which one will be part of the record for future inspections, annual inspections.
The one you see before you, the department calculations.
Okay.
And this is the one that the code enforcement officials will use for the yearly annual inspections, and the one that will go on record. And that's also reflected in the report under the calculated.
Correct.
Square footages, seat numbers, et cetera.
And is there any ADA accessibility for this building, or is it an older established building?
This is an existing building, so the general rule of thumb is maintain the same, if not improve it slightly if you can, within feasibility.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
So since this was previously that cute little bespoke pet item shop that I was familiar with, two of my kids were very fond of that. I'm just curious about the challenges you face. Are you going to be installing a brand-new kitchen, or was at some point in the past, was there a kitchen in that building?
It was a residential small kitchen that will be demoed, and a new commercial kitchen will be installed.
Good to know. Yeah, no, that's great.
I have a question. What's your
Commissioner
timeline
Stewart?
for, sorry, Mayor, what's the timeline for opening? When do you hope to open?
Yesterday. As soon as I get all my permits and the construction is complete. So
Okay.
I'm hoping by season.
Good.
So we've gotten ahead of ourselves a little bit. Would you introduce yourself, please? And
Yes,
then we'll give you whatever time you want to say whatever you'd like.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Mills and the commissioners. My name is Christine Minnick. I'm the owner of the Sea Hag Champagne Lounge, located 46 Baltimore Avenue, Unit A, the front cute little building. I'm respectfully seeking approval of permit of compliance to operate a 35-seat restaurant within the C1 downtown district with a small dining patio, as shown in the plans that you've received. The Sea Hag Champagne Lounge is structured first and foremost as a food-focused establishment that fully adheres to Delaware's complete meal requirements. Our culinary program is intentionally designed to provide substantive, thoughtfully composed dishes to meet the definition of a complete meal without the use of greasy fryers or open-flamed ovens. Our menu reflects current trend toward healthier, seasonal, and shareable dining. Data shows that many guests today prefer fresh, balanced portions, unique ingredients, and the flexibility to enjoy either individually composed complete meal or a combination of dishes shared at the table to complete a fun, exploratory dining experience. While some items are presented in a tapas-style format to encourage a variety in social dining, there are fully composed and substantive items allowing guests to enjoy a complete meal consistent with Delaware regulations. The goal is to offer healthier, more intentional dining experience that emphasizes on quality ingredients, a variety of responsible portions, and thoughtful preparation with coastal influences that Rehoboth Beach is known for. Champagne and other sparkling wines are curated specifically to complement the food program. The beverages are secondary to the culinary experience and serve as pairings rather than the primary focus of the establishment. Our indoor seating accommodates 35 guests, consistent with fire code occupancy limits and the liquor board minimum seated guest mandate to obtain a liquor license. The interior will be restricted to guests 21 and over to maintain a calm, adult-oriented dining atmosphere aligned with our alcohol service model. We also plan to have a small outdoor full-service patio. The patio will welcome guests of all ages, including well-behaved dogs. The patio is modest in size and designed to complement the pedestrian-friendly character of Baltimore Avenue without increasing intensity of use. Our anticipated regular operating hours will be 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. There will be no live entertainment, no DJs, no outdoor speakers. Background jazz music will be played indoors at low volume to maintain a relaxed and conversational setting. This is a small-scale, boutique, seated lunch and early evening restaurant concept designed to operate responsibly within its approved occupancy and zoning classification. We are committed to full compliance with the board, the city, and the state alcohol regulations. We are also committed to responsible service practices and being active members of the Rehoboth Beach community, including supporting local farms and participating in charitable initiatives. We respectfully request approval for our permit of compliance and look forward to contributing positively to the downtown business district. And thank you in advance for your consideration.
Thank you. Thank you, Christine. Are there any questions of the applicant by the commissioners? Shaking their hand. No. Again, this is a public hearing, so we'll now open for public comment. Anybody in favor, against, or just comments? Here's your opportunity. If not, then we're going to close the public comment portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commissioners. Commissioners, is there any further discussion, or else I will entertain a motion?
Mayor, I find the following to be true, that the proper application for the restaurant permit of compliance and a dining patio supplemental permit of compliance have been filed, that the proper fee has been paid, the proper notifications have been made, that all parties wishing to be heard have been heard, that the primary purpose is that of a restaurant based on their application and menu submission and additional information submitted, that the restaurant and dining patio meet the city's applicable zoning and licensing provisions, that the restaurant and dining patio would not be a detriment to the peace, order, and quiet of the neighborhood and the city, that the restaurant and dining patio will not have an adverse impact on the neighborhood properties or on the city of Rehoboth Beach, considering the impact of traffic, parking, and noise, that the applicant has made no false statements to the city employees or to the commissioners. Therefore, I make a motion that the city manager issue the applicants a permit of compliance for an operation of a restaurant and a supplemental permit of compliance for the operation of a dining patio to be associated with that restaurant.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Patrick Gossett and a second by Commissioner Suzanne Good to grant a restaurant permit of compliance and to grant a dining patio supplemental permit of compliance to the restaurant known as, briefly as CHAG. And is there any further discussion? If not, Commissioner Good,
Aye.
Commissioner Saunders,
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett,
Aye.
Commissioner Thier,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart,
Aye.
Commissioner Gallanti,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The motion's carried unanimously. Congratulations. We do look forward to you opening.
Thank you
For
so
this
very
summer.
much.
Very good. And you are allowed to leave if you like.
Yes, thank you.
There is no old business identified on the agenda. I would let everybody leave that wants to. Again, there is no old business. We're moving right on to new business. New business A, first item is construction update on the Rehoboth Beach Patrol Combo Public Restroom Facility. Henry Matlos.
Thanks, Mayor, Commissioners. So today I'm going to give a brief status update on the Beach Patrol about the work that still needs to occur, the punch list items, budget considerations, and with regard to the budget, I'm not going to go over change orders, but more of how this relates, the current finances to the FY 26-27 budget. In a few months, when the project is closed out, J.D. Bartlett from EDIS and I will give a final update, including final contract sum, change orders that haven't been reviewed, et cetera, and any other questions. And before I really get started, I want to talk about what was in the budget. I want to reiterate that $200,000 was put in to FY 27 initially. And that is not an increase in the price in any way. That was just because we had thought a certain amount of work would not get done and wouldn't be able to get paid until next year. Since in discussions with EDIS, I've lowered that amount to $40,000, and hopefully by the time the budget is approved, it won't be zero, but hopefully I'll even be able to lower that number. I want to go over real briefly the difference between a general contractor and the construction manager. There's been some questions I've had from members of the public. I think there's been misconceptions, not necessarily from you all, but I think it's kind of important to go over it because we use construction managers in certain areas. We will be for the streets department. So very basically, as you know, Delmarva Vetra Builders was the general contractor. So, they put the bid in, they won it. They were given the contract. Their bid was $600,000 less than the next bid. So, and they were deemed a reliable contractor, so they received the bid. So, as the GC, they hire the subs, they procure all the materials, get all the permits and compliances, and they're the ones responsible for the ultimate schedule, when what subs are going to be here when. Obviously, if it comes to crunch time, we put some pressure on them, and as does the the construction manager. So the construction manager is EDIS, and they're hired by us. They're our eyes literally on the job site. For this particular project, they were not involved in the design phase, and say, for example, moving forward for the streets department, my intent is to get them involved in the design phase. That makes things smoother. For example, when GHD is doing phase 4, and all the other projects, they actually did the design, and so they were involved in the design from day one. In a case like this, the construction manager and the architect were separate. So they review pay apps, change orders, and I got to say, I'm really impressed with the way that they've handled the pay apps, and real sticklers on exactness with the pay apps and the change orders. And I put on this communications and resolve issues. That's everybody's job, including the cities, and as is safety and quality control. And importance to any successful project is communication and coordination and working together. And all in all, I think it went very well in the project. It was able to be delivered on time. Any question on this before I move on?
Just one question.
Commissioner?
Commissioner Saunders?
And is the manager paid on a commission, a percentage of the total, or are they an hourly rate? How do we pay for the construction manager?
They're an hourly rate. And someone like JD, for example, will get a higher rate than the field superintendent. And even say with the field superintendents, there'll be different rates. Like we had I know virtually all of you met and dealt with him, Rusty, who really did a great job. When we do the streets department, we probably wouldn't need someone as seasoned, as experienced as him.
Thank you.
Okay, so these are some of the major punch list items. The epoxy flooring you can see on the bottom right is in the bathroom. This one was taken from the men's bathroom upstairs. Is buckled in some areas. That's going to be redone to a large extent. The outside railings to the right, those need to be reconditioned. Some of them have been conditioned. If you take a look along Baltimore Avenue. But the ones that are removable, like this one, will actually be taken out back to the vendor's factory, reconditioned there, and the wire ropes will be completely replaced. Doing that will help the quality rather than them being out there having to mask everything off, dealing with weather. It's more difficult doing that, but it'll give a better product in the long run. The inside stairs, some of the LVP needs to be redone on the stairs, and if you take a look on the threshold, there's paint. Those will be replaced. And the observation deck staining, that needs to get done. Waiting for warmer weather on that. You want the concrete to be, I forget what temperature, but I believe at least 55 degrees before doing it, obviously for a better product. So that will most likely happen in March or April. I don't see any problem getting everything done by, before opening of the beach patrol.
Sure, there, go ahead.
With any of these items, I guess, why, I guess, but more importantly, do we have any longer term concerns with like staining, just for example, we've got staining on the thank you, on the observation staining. I mean, do we have concerns that we're going to have staining every year? Or is there a defect with the material is there now that allows it to stain? And that's just an example of, right, the staining, but what about the LVP? Do we have concerns that the LVP is not durable enough, that we're going to need to be replacing it every few years? And I'm just, a couple of things here. One is, do we need to be looking ahead or looking at something different because the materials that are being used are just not going to stand up to the way we're using it?
Understand. As far as the LVP, there were some issues with the installation the first time. So I don't see a problem with that going forward. And as far as how often the outside deck would need to be stained, I'd have to find out. I really don't know the answer to that.
And the actual outside deck has not been stained yet. It's staining of the concrete, not
Yes.
that it's being stained by dirt or something.
Yeah, great clarification, right? So the outside deck is getting stained. But again, back to the question, do we have concerns that we're going to have long-term issues with the staining of that concrete?
Yeah, I'm not sure. And with any building of this magnitude, that's why this year I think I budgeted $40,000 in addition to these items. Things are going to come up that were some we'd anticipate and some we wouldn't. But I can find out about the staining of the concrete and what that should entail in future years.
It's not one specific item. It's not one specific item. It's more the broader question where we've had some appears we've had issues with some of the materials that we're using, and do we need to be concerned about, longer term issues? I appreciate that we're going to have ongoing maintenance with this building, but clearly we want to try and minimize that.
Sure. Yes, I understand.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Matlos. Yeah, it is concerning the second floor, although it's more open to the elements than the lower floor, which seems to have survived the first season better. But what's the plan to make sure the second time round that the flooring doesn't buckle again? Like in terms of, are you choosing different materials? Are you like, what's the plan?
Well, on the LVP on the second floor, there were issues with it right away.
Okay.
Did you?
Yeah, so with the installation of that type of flooring, you have to do it correctly and have a certain number of millimeters from the actual wall, and if it's too close, it will buckle, and as it expands and contracts. So, and then, there's implications of the underlayment and other things with the actual installation. So I don't have concerns over it. It's just the way it was installed perhaps was incorrect. They did fix upstairs flooring immediately last year, and it looks great. We were there hosting a meeting not too long ago. It does look good, but the stairs themselves, they just need to be redone. But ultimately, that product should last 20 years. So I think we feel good about it.
Great, thanks, yeah.
Mayor?
Let's hope.
Commissioner Saunders?
Just so I get a little preview, things to come. The Streets Committee's been working on bicycles, and we have got some comments from people that are concerned that the bicycle racks are poorly located because they're downstairs and they're not seen from the boardwalk. Is there any chance that there's any consideration to relocating the bicycle racks so they're on street level? People say they don't know they're there.
Yeah, I don't see why not. It would be a change order, but.
They're
but
downstairs, so I
that would be
guess,
possible. That should be possible to do.
Great, thank you. Like I say, it'll probably come up again in the future, but I'll give you a little preview of it.
And in the meantime, when it's season, if that's not done, we could always add bike racks.
Well,
And I think one of the other things that we're also looking at is adequate signage there. I think we could do a lot with signage, but that wouldn't be part of the actual construction project.
Yeah. That's a good point, thanks on that, because I know once the season opened, I'd get some comments sometimes from some of you, or sometimes from residents saying, hey, there's no signage here, and we added it little by little, and once we closed the restrooms for the season, we made sure there was signage there saying that it's closed, Rehoboth Avenue is open. So that's a good point.
thank you.
Okay, so budget considerations. So for fiscal year 2026, we budgeted just under $2.4 million. So far, 1.7 million of it has been spent or encumbered, leaving about $780,000 left. Now, good news, we have less than $200,000 to complete the project to spend. So, and again, hoping to spend, get most of it done this year, but again, the $40,000 of it is budgeted in 2026. And so the number can be lowered. I just, last week, authorized a pay app for, $425,000 to Delmarva Veteran Builders for, for the work that has been done. So again, just want to reiterate, any of the work that is on the punch list, we either haven't paid or will not get charged for. And that's something that, our construction manager has eagle eyes on, and I look very closely at that also. And that's all I have. Any questions? Okay.
Any questions by members of the public? Yeah, if not, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Henry. We'll move on to item B, new business, presentation by GHD on the stormwater management plan. Henry, do you want to introduce?
Sure, Mayor. I'm trying to pull up a... Great, thanks. Sorry about the delay. Thanks, Mayor. So I'd like to introduce Jeff Sturdivant from GHD. Jeff is a principal engineer with GHD who's done a lot of work with the city over past 30 years, both in stormwater and wastewater. He was the principal in the wastewater outfall project and oversees Stephen Clark, who has been here a couple times before with other wastewater projects, presenting, and Stephen managed Phase 3B of the upgrades. So the stormwater master plan has been in the works for quite some time. It's in our CDP to have one and in our strategic plan. My predecessor applied for and received city received a $50,000 matching surface water grant from DNREC for development of this plan. The cost of the plan was $100,000, so $50,000 of which was paid by, paid for by the state. Jeff?
Thank you, Henry.
Jeff, thank you for being here today. I notice in the report, there's abbreviations, I forget what you call them, but MS4, TMDL. If there are opportunities to explain what those are during the thing, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. And thanks, welcome. I'm happy to be back. It's been a while since I stood in front of the city. But I was here quite often during the Ocean Outfall project, and so I'm happy to be back. I was actually involved in the first stormwater study with Rehoboth Beach. It was part of the record of decision for approval for the Ocean Outfall. DNREC required the city to do a stormwater report, and I oversaw that as part of the Ocean Outfall project. So I've kind of stayed with this a little bit for continuity with the city and help push the program along. Okay. All right, there we go. So there's not a clicker, it's just scroll down. Okay. So just here's a project purpose and goals. The goal for this project was to reduce beach advisories caused by stormwater quality issues. GHD has worked with the city a lot on looking at stormwater quality issues and doing a lot of testing around the city. And so the purpose of this project was to take the last projects and move them forward. We were looking to improve water quality in city lakes, identify and prioritize cost-effective stormwater projects to improve overall water quality, and focus on medium-scale projects. The city of Rehoboth is built out. There's a lot of asphalt, there's houses, there's not a lot of green space here. So it's not like we can go and dedicate a field to do stormwater improvements. We have to work it in smaller projects, or whole-scale projects as an stormwater ocean outfall. We'll talk a little bit about that. And one of the ideas that Kevin had was he was concerned whether MS4 regulations would end up being required in smaller cities. MS4 is a regulatory guideline set out by EPA, and it's to have cities with populations above 50,000 look at their stormwater program and develop methodologies, define methodologies to reduce stormwater runoff and improve water quality going into the rivers and lakes. So it was one of the things that Kevin wanted us to look at, and so we incorporated as part of this project as well. So that's MS4.
Okay.
One of the issues, I'll just kind of summarize some of this stuff. One of the issues that we have here in the city is that we have high enterococci levels in the stormwater that go out into the ocean and sometimes cause beach advisories at this time. We've kind of sat back and done data analysis on the frequency of those and of those issues on the beach. And a lot of them are really right after storms in the summer. And especially if we have a storm in the summer and the next day is a routine sampling day by DNREC, we end up with an advisory if it was a big storm. So we have looked at this issue before. We did look at large-scale projects, which was deep water outfalls here to take them, remove the outfalls that discharge right to the surf and take an outfall 1,200 feet out into the ocean, and maybe combine the series of outfalls that are out there into one or two deep water outfalls. That was part of the 2015-18 report, and we looked at how far it had to go out to minimize the opportunity to having that enterococci come back on the beach. It would die before it got to the beach. So we looked at that, but that's it's a high cost alternative. There are several beach communities along the East Coast that are doing that. North Myrtle Beach has a very large program with deep water outfalls. And currently they have one there that's going on. I think it's slightly under $50 million for the pipeline going out. And it's probably a 1.5-year construction project. They have to build pretty much a bridge 1,200 feet out in the ocean to install the pipe. So it's a big deal. So we were looking in this project to look for smaller scale projects that might be more cost effective that we could implement in the city, given the nature of the city and the built out and the lack of open space to go in and do real stormwater projects that were easier. Okay? A regulatory and watershed overview. We talk about TMDLs here, and for TMDL, that stands for total maximum daily load, which is what the DNREC and EPA like to look at for the amount of nitrogen or contaminants that are going into surface water. So they look at TMDLs for both wastewater and effluent, and then also for stormwater. It's not currently under an NPS permit, but it could be required for the future inclusion. So, but right now we do not think that there's going to be a push to require MS4 requirements for cities less than 50,000 at this time. Just a quick overview of the report. We looked at large scale. We went back and revisited large scale options, medium scale, and potential locations and feasibility considerations. Did some discussions on hydraulic modeling, performance criteria, cost analysis, and then made recommendations. Some of the large scale projects we talked about, extend or consolidate outfalls further offshore. It really would improve aesthetics. It would reduce maintenance requirements because there's the outfalls that we have there require to be probably rebuilt, every 5-10 years after a big northeaster. They take a lot of abuse out there 24 hours a day. And we also looked at an innovative alternative, since we have some additional capacity in the wastewater outfall here, the effluent, is whether during storm events we could pump stormwater into the outfall and take advantage of the additional capacity we have there. We talked to DNREC about that, and we looked for situations in North America or in the US where that has been done before, and we really couldn't find a place where EPA allowed that to occur. And one of the issues with that is that DNREC, EPA require the final treatment of the wastewater treatment plant to be measured at the plant and evaluated. And if we put a stormwater connection here, they would require us to do the evaluation after stormwater, and then whatever comes in with the stormwater, we'd be responsible for. So we decided to not move forward on that idea, but we did talk about it with DNREC, so looking for options. So let me see. So here's just a picture of the existing outfalls and how we went through the reconfiguration of extending one 1,200 feet out. It's a very large project if that was undertaken. We talked about some of the aesthetic benefits of removing those outfalls there the way they are now. If there were an outfall that was placed into deep water, it would be under the sand. It could be probably 48-inch, maybe larger diameter pipe, and of course it would be extended 1,200 feet out, and it would have a riprap layer over top of it to protect it from erosion during storm events. Okay. But in the end, it was decided that was just too costly at this time. Here's the rerouting of the stormwater. This is the final manhole vault for the outfall and how we looked at that in the discussions with DENREC. We went on to look at medium-scale projects. We talked about Lake Gerard modifications, first flush treatment, permeable pavement, and then dune infiltration systems. Several of these were new alternatives to the city, and I'd like to say that, you know, this was a team effort. It was GHD, but it was also the city. Henry was involved, Evan and Taylor in every one of the meetings. So one of the things we looked at and realized is that there are two nice lakes in the city of Rehoboth Beach, and if you're unaware that, you know, when stormwater goes into lakes, lakes act as a treatment device for stormwater. It slows the water down. The sun is allowed to break into the water or to hit the water and the enterococci. Sunlight will kill enterococci, which is causing the issues with the beach advisories. So if it sits in there for it sits in there for 24 hours, 36 hours before it's discharged to the ocean, it undergoes treatment. So they're really good things to have in your system. One of the things that we talked about was, hey, could we reroute some of the stormwater flow that goes directly out to the lakes? And that was one of the considerations in the report. And I'd like everyone to read that and consider that possibly. But at this time, it wasn't recommended to do that in this approach. One of the things, of course, the larger volume you have with lakes, the better it is. The city has had an item in their budget to dredge Lake Gerard, and they wanted us to look at, well, how would that impact water quality? Well, it would help with water quality because it would give us longer detention time in the lake for stormwater runoff. And the longer detention time, the better treatment we're going to have. So we recommend that Lake Gerard should be dredged in the area that was allocated earlier. I think it was 445 cubic yards estimated in 2023. It's one of our recommendations here. For improving water quality for stormwater, you really want to focus on first flush, because the first flush, when you have a heavy downpour, the majority of the contaminants wash into the system in the first 20 minutes. So if we could catch that first 20 minutes of flow and treat it, then we would have better water quality going to the ocean or to the lakes. So one of the methods that we looked at was permeable interlocking concrete pavers. A lot of times this is a system that's confused with permeable pavement, but this is interlocking concrete pavers, and you design it for an infiltration and a volume underneath of the pavers to allow the water just to run down, and it goes through like a stone and a sand filtration system, and you filter out some of the contaminants, and then it slowly settles down into the sand layer that we have below the beach or below Rehoboth Avenue or wherever it is. And so they've become more and more reliable. Previously there were maintenance issues, but they've become more and more reliable. We have used them on several projects, and then we thought that would be a good idea to use or to try in Rehoboth Beach. Through the team discussion, we did pick a couple areas we thought would be candidates for piloting this alternative. You know, the idea is to do a small area and build it out and then sample and lay out a sampling plan for it and determine what the maintenance requirements are. So, you know, we're not saying do a large-scale road in Rehoboth Beach. We're just saying do a small scale, test it, and see how it works. If it works, the city could consider implementing it further. One of the innovative alternatives that was looked at was a dune infiltration system. This is kind of an interesting idea if you've looked at the report, but it's really taking advantage of the underlying geology here, with mostly being sand, and finding a way to take the stormwater and channel it into the sand layers. As you all know, at the beach, if you drop a bucket of water on sand, it permeates right down through the water, or through the sand. So this was one of the ideas. We actually found some case studies where this is being done before. This is a dune infiltration system, this picture here in Cure Beach, North Carolina, where that was their methodology for handling stormwater. It's been in service probably since 2006. And it is a recommendation for the team or the city to potentially go down to Cure Beach and talk to the city about how it is and how it's worked and the maintenance requirements. All these systems, if we were to install one, would be protected by a storm water treatment system, inlet device, and infiltration. What it does is it's going to catch the large material that might wash off the road and not allow that to go in and foul the filter. That would be a requirement for cleaning. But other than that, after that, it would flow down into the infiltration areas of the filter. These are just additional components of it. There would be a large vault, but all of this would be buried. And this area here is the infiltration system, and this would also be buried. So you would only see the top of the vault. Small scale and immediate needs projects. There were a few that were considered here. Currently, there is an existing Rehoboth Avenue pumping station. It's a stormwater pumping station that has been offline. We made a recommendation to go ahead and get that rehabilitated. It's designed to help pull some of the first flush treatment or first flush flow and pump it into the stormwater or the wastewater collection system. We considered, should we make that pump station larger? But what we did is we looked at the capacity of the existing sewer system here and determined that really we, in a really large downpour, the block of Rehoboth Avenue, just that watershed could generate 28,000 gallons per minute of flow. And the pipelines that the gravity lines that take sewage from the ocean block into the collector sewer out First Avenue or Second Avenue are only rated for 400 gallons a minute. So we didn't have the capacity to do that. But we would like to get this up and running. We think that would be a small, it would be a small assistance, but it would be good. It's there. We might as well use it. We also looked at Lake Avenue. Here's the top cover of the manhole, the pump station that's sitting there now in the pumps for Rehoboth Beach, Rehoboth Avenue. And for Lake Avenue and Lakeview, there have been some ponding issues and flooding issues. And so there was a recommendation by Bob Palmer, I think, to put in a new stormwater line that goes directly to the lake. Some of the locations that were selected for these alternatives, for the first flush infiltration system, we have looked at Maryland Avenue. We thought this was an opportunity here. It's city-owned. There's a park there currently. It has a good footprint. I'm trying to get to the picture of it, yeah. It has a good-sized footprint, And we think that a dune infiltration system could be piloted there. It's fairly good size, and so one of the recommendations is if the city wanted to go forward with that, with a dune infiltration system located in this area, there are some concerns that we would have, so we'd want to do some stormwater monitoring and groundwater groundwater monitoring to determine what really the levels of the groundwater there are, to see how much we have to infiltrate. And we would also want to look at the adjacent building foundations to make sure that if we put a big dune infiltration system there, the runoff would not impact the foundations. For permeable pavers, we looked at areas around the city that might be a candidate to pilot that. We came to the decision that Oak Avenue would be a good candidate. There have been some flooding issues there, so it would assist with that. So Oak Avenue was the area that was selected for that. But understand that with respect to permeable pavers, if we pilot it and it works, they could be put anywhere in the city. So anywhere that we think we have hot spots or the worst water quality, we could implement there first once we've piloted it to address water quality issues. So here's just a big table for success criteria for stormwater management systems. I'm not going to go through that, but you can see that we do have some pricing here for Maryland Avenue. An infiltration system there could be $300,000 to $1 million. And then a permeable pavement at Oak Avenue would be probably in the $400,000 range. More costs there, yeah. Yeah, I think for the Maryland Avenue infiltration system, that first price was incorrect. I think it's $500,000 to $2.4 million. And the range there is based upon whether we needed to have a pump station added to pump the stormwater up into our infiltration system, or we could do it by gravity. That would be evaluated during a study, further study. Oak Avenue, permeable pavers, $700,000. Lake Gerard dredging, $100,000 to $200,000. And then Lake Avenue and Lakeview Street stormwater improvements. There's been a budget item put in of about $350,000. So. Here are the final conclusions and recommendations of this stormwater master plan. And I'll stop it there to ask if there's any questions.
Commissioners, Commissioner Stewart, and then Mark.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a comment and a question. I guess I'll start with a question. Why nothing on the south side of Rehoboth?
The purpose of this report was to look at alternatives to do stormwater quality improvement. So any of these alternatives, if they pilot correctly, could be placed anywhere in the city.
Okay, okay.
But just for the initial small scale, we recommended these two areas.
Okay, and then the second piece was that I was one of the members of the Stormwater Task Force that we convened. And one of our strong hopes and recommendations is that we have a master stormwater management plan that I understand this is a piece of that, but I think we were hoping that the city would adopt a more comprehensive plan like some communities in Virginia have, where they talk about permeable pavers for construction projects and really gets at that residential piece of stormwater management. So while not objecting to what you say, I'm I'm sort of imploring that we need also a bigger plan that gets at residential construction, gets at trees, gets at permeable surfaces and those kind of things.
Yeah, some of
Yeah.
that's is involved in zoning
Right.
ordinances.
Commissioner Saunders?
Yes, we didn't talk too much about the pollutants, the source of the pollutants in the first place. And I'm wondering, is there anything, I suppose I know what it is, but I'll let you tell me. And is there anything we can do, whether it be education or dissuading the geese not to drive over or whatever? Is there anything we can do to prevent the pollutants in such a number as we have them now?
I think that there's a lot of potential sources. We've done a lot of testing and searched, trying to follow up the pipe, and it just it never panned out to getting a full solution. I think that one of the biggest areas that I would be focused on is keeping, you know, of course, the roads as clean as possible. You know, we could do all the work. We could be perfect, but it would just be one person maybe changing a baby diaper in the car and then maybe throwing it under the car as they walk away. That could cause a problem, and we can't control that, but we can control the overall quality and removing as much material as we can. The other alternative or the other thing that I think the city should also focus on is we helped with regulations for restaurants, and we really need to make sure that they're cleaning out their grease traps. We really need to make sure that they're the mats that they use in the kitchen, the grid rubber mats, sometimes those are carried outside and pressure washed. And that's a problem, you know. So along with these smaller scale recommendations, I would be vigilant in those areas.
I was thinking about the geese.
The geese? Yeah, we actually did some DNA testing of the enterococci and really could not connect those mostly to animals.
Surprised, but happy.
Yeah, because we were, you know, I've been attacked by the seagulls out there. So I was thinking it was going to be seagulls as well, but not really.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
Thanks. Actually, that last observation of yours is consistent with, over the years, Bethany Beach, Rehoboth have always blamed the wildlife, including the seagulls, and a lot of us who've just read about other cities were skeptical because it's human development, usually that's to blame. So, which is all the more reason, my main question, because I wasn't in favor of this study at the time, by the way, because what we can do, which is more actionable and more affordable, was to repair, enlarge the existing stormwater pipes, and I thought we had a good mapping of that from either 2021 or 2022. So were you asked to evaluate the needs further west to mitigate the amount of stormwater that's not being transported by pipes that were installed like in the 70s or 80s when the flow was much lower, so they can't cope with that amount of flow? Were you ever asked to evaluate those needs in addition to what actually Commissioner Stewart just mentioned, to an ordinance to mandate pervious cover for driveways, for sidewalks, which would really benefit, would absorb a lot more of the stormwater before the aging system has to cope with it?
Yeah. We did a hydraulic model of the entire stormwater system back in the 2015, 2018 report, and identified areas that we thought were under capacity. So that was done, and I don't think there were a lot of areas that were defined as under capacity. It's been a while since I looked at that. But it could always be that it's a combination that the pipe size is there, but maybe, you know, the pipes might be partially clogged, or the inlets are partially clogged. But that's an ongoing struggle. So, but as part of this, we really were not asked to do that. We were really looking for water quality based alternatives.
Okay, but just for the record, at least we were told that there's much more recent data than that 2015 to 2018 timeframe you just cited. We had pretty specific information, including about, for instance, I recall the King Charles stormwater pipe was particularly inadequate for the flow that was being generated. So, I don't know. Those are things to me that are more affordable, more feasible. A lot of this, including this Maryland Avenue pilot project modeled on North Carolina, maybe eventually, but I feel as though we have to take care of the volume of stormwater that is not being properly handled by the system we already have.
Yeah, I mean, in one hand, I agree with you. It is, we need to adequately transport the stormwater away because it can cause flooding in roads, cause accidents and issues. And so that's an important issue. But, it's also water quality. It's stormwater quality. So if we put a bigger pipe in an area and get the water faster down to the ocean, that's not going to help with stormwater quality, which is also a major concern. But that's for the city to determine.
Right, and well, specifically like on Baltimore Avenue, there was a lot of concern that the sanitary sewer pipe and the stormwater pipe, due to various construction projects, were not as separate as they should be. So sadly, it seems some of some of the wastewater may have been, at times has joined up with the stormwater pipes. So if the stormwater pipes were replaced and upgraded, we'd have fewer of these incidents with, the restaurants and things. So I don't know. But I did learn a lot from your presentation that these are industrial scale projects in several cases, with the exception of maybe the Lake Gerard dredging, which seems more manageable. But the others, I personally am worried the city doesn't have the means at the moment to start contemplating them.
Anybody else? Then I'd like to go to the members of the public. If you would raise your hand to be recognized, come to the front podium. Remember, there's a 3-minute time limit. There is a countdown clock above the monitor, and it will beep when it's time to stop talking.
Jan Conisty, 42 Oak Avenue.
Thank you, Jan.
First of all, I was a member of the Stormwater Committee. I'm also here representing myself as a member, but also Save Our Lakes. I don't know how you ended up doing what you did, but very clearly, the recommendation from the Stormwater Utility Committee was a master plan. All that Kevin Williams had at the time was a list of projects. I can't say anything about Henry. He wasn't here then. This has been 2 or 3 years. It just, goes on. And we asked for a master plan so that we could see all the projects that needed to be done in the city and how it would be done. We also requested it would be a nice idea to have an ordinance that required pervious surfaces, like for driveways, sidewalks, and stuff like that. That goes back 2 or 3 years. I can't remember exactly how long ago it was. So we do not consider, this isn't a master plan. Dredging Lake Gerard. Lake Gerard is like this deep, and it's muck below that. The whole thing needs to be dredged, not just a little bit up at the west end. And it's pointless to dredge one little bit and not dredge the whole thing. So where is Silver Lake? I'm on the Board of Adjustment. I have people come in and cry about the flooding from Philadelphia that goes through to Munson and is ruining their yards, their sheds, their foundations, et cetera. So where is all of these things in this plan? This is a plan of projects. It's exactly what Kevin Williams had when he came to us. He didn't want a stormwater master plan. He had his list of projects. And we had people on this committee from Virginia and Maryland who had been elected officials in their home communities and had worked on this. And they tweak it. You know, every year they look at it again and they say, man, we need to do this, we need to do that, and they tweak it. They had a great deal of experience. It was a great learning experience for all of us involved in that. They shared their communications with us, how they educated their populations in Arlington and Fairfax City and can't think of Bruce's town in Tacoma Park in Maryland. They had tons of educational materials that we could have used and adopted. But we couldn't do anything without a master plan. I mean, it doesn't matter if we can't afford to do what's there. We need to know what we need to do, and we didn't get any of that in this. In addition, the data. My husband, Craig, Rick Hardy, I can't remember who else, they test the water every week in all 3 lakes. The data that's in this is old data. That data is tested for the University of Delaware, run by a scientist at the University of Delaware, and posted on the DENREC site. So it's not obscure, it's not difficult to find. All that data about the water quality in our lakes, Lake Comanches isn't ours, but Silver Lake and Lake Gerard is posted.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you. Anybody else? Jay?
I'm sure.
Yeah. He's that, and then you.
Yeah, they probably know hers isn't about everything that this is about.
That's all right.
Hear Kitty first.
We'll hear it again. No, you're next. We've already.
I'm not going to
Name.
get into. I'm Jay LeGree. I live on Prospect Street. I'm not going to get into any of the argument about whether we should or should have a master plan. I believe we do. I'm just going to talk about one of the good things. When he said dredged Lake Gerard, that's true. It really needs to be dredged. Lake Gerard is 32 inches deep at the Children's Fishing Pier. 32 inches. A healthy lake is 6 to 8 feet deep. And think of what that could do to help our volume of rainwater or stormwater if we decide to channel some of it through Lake Gerard or through Silver Lake. Unfortunately, 445 cubic yards is what that little plan for $200,000 stands for. Do any of you know how much 445 cubic yards is? It's a plot less than the size of a Rehoboth Beach residential lot. It's 3,600 square feet. Lake Gerard is about 13 acres now. It's 145,000 cubic yards if we dig it 6 to 8 feet, which is what we should do. And that is about $1 million. And then we got to figure out where we're going to put the spoils and how much that's going to do and whether we're going to get the permits or not. Dredging Lake Gerard is something we really should think about, but not just that little piece of dirt at the west prong. We need to dredge the whole thing. And I'll bet the Corps of Engineers would help us. They're going to be dredging the canal. They're going to put some of those spoils over by Thompson's Island. They're going to put some more of the spoils for fill up some of the lagoons that the county, where they have their Wolf Neck plant out there. We could probably get rid of it if we could tie into that some way and dredge that lake. If that lake was healthy, we'd have better nutrient, we'd have better algae problems. We've poured so much heavy metal into Lake Gerard that you could build a freight train with all that crap that's sunk to the bottom. But I think 32 inches is about the average depth. We got a long way to go, and we should take after Lake Gerard. Thanks, kids.
Thank you, Jay. Kitty?
This isn't easy. First of all, I can't see any of your faces, so I'm sorry I can't speak because I can't see. And I probably shouldn't be here at 102 years old. But I'm still pretty angry about the buffer in back of my house. When Solar SOL3 came to Rehoboth, the lady that started it lived on Lake Comanches in Rehoboth that's not Rehoboth Beach. And she started this outfit that in the city somehow got involved and gave them permission to put a buffer around Silver Lake and Lake Girard. She didn't ask for a buffer around Lake Comegys where she lived, but 2 buffers, so you were supposed to put a 10-foot buffer, and she got involved with Todd Fritchman, a previous school teacher who turned environmentalist, and he put aerators and put the buffer around. And now the buffer back of me is not 10 feet, it's 23 feet. And I don't think there's a buffer at all. So they're violating the ordinance that the city gave them in 2013 was the ordinance is a law. And you're violating that because there's no buffer at Silver Lake, and the 10-foot buffer is now 23 feet. And I'm really been unhappy for the last 13 years. I've begged the city to get rid of the buffer behind I have 2 houses on Olive Avenue. And you can't see this buffer when you drive down the street. You only have to go behind my houses. There are about 10 people that live along Olive that have this buffer behind their house. Well, I don't want to lose my train of thought. I would like to see the buffer. I've asked to have it cut down. You've got wild fox that are roaming all around. I had 3 in my front yard one night. I came home from the grocery store, and there were 3 fox in my front yard. Then they're all out back in Cranberry Park. And besides that, the DENRAC wrote a nice letter in the Cape Gazette. They don't like ticks because Delaware is very high in Lyme disease. And that buffer certainly is a great place for ticks. It's just not a healthy thing to have behind your house. And yesterday it was kind of sad because one of my grandchildren came with his little boy that's 2, and he wanted to go back and show him where he grew up and played. My sons, in their 70s, they all played back there. They had a boat. They loved playing by the lake. And so the buffer was only put there by Mr. Fritchman and for Solar 3 to keep the wildlife out. And my feeling is that people shouldn't live near the beach or the water if they don't like wildlife. It's always been there, and not only that, the city, Rehoboth, actually fed them. Every day, a man named John Brown, who worked for the city, went down and fed the geese every day. And so Todd Fritchman got a picture and showed it here one time of all the geese. Well, no wonder, because people from Lewis came over and fed them. So if they didn't feed the geese, they wouldn't have been that heavy. But what mess they make, the rain washes it away. So, but back to the city, the drains that you talk about from the city, the drains from the streets have nothing to do at all with the buffer. There's no connection. I called the city about that, and the man that heads up the water department said you've always had drain problems, but the buffer's only there to keep the wildlife out. So I had some notes, by the way, what I wanted to tell you. Oh, I know. Mrs. Cochran, before she passed away, called me on the phone one day about a year ago and asked me to come down. She wanted to show me something. So I went down, and in her apartment overlooking the lake, across on Mrs. Laird's land where it's all wooded, there must have been 1,000 or more of the largest snapping turtles I never saw anything like it. They were all on the side of the woods sunning themselves. And I've lived there 75 years on that, and we've never seen anything like that. And I think Bitsy Cochran, her daughter, has seen them also, but you can't see it from the street. You'd have to know about it, but you wouldn't believe what it looked like. And I think the wildlife kept that. Probably, the snapping turtles, I don't remember them being like that. So the fishing pier that the man's going to pay for and put up, it's going to be kind of sad because I can't believe there's any fish with all those snapping turtles. It was a space as big as this room. The whole woods was covered with great big, they were sunning themselves. And Bitsy says they come out when it's hot weather and do that. But anyway, that's not a very healthy thing to have around the lakes and snapping turtles.
Thank you, Kitty. Thank you, Kitty.
Time's up. My time's up? Oh, you're on time? You put you on time? She can't hear, so she didn't know there's a timer. Well, okay, I'll sit down, but I'd like to see you vote. If you don't want to get rid of the buffer, get rid of it behind my house.
Thank you, Kitty. Anybody else like to speak?
And I'm sorry, I can't hear and I can't see.
Anybody else? And we'll bring it back to the commissioners then. Did you have any particular expectations of a conclusion or for this meeting?
Ultimately, just to receive the presentation today. Of course, there will be things in the future, but this was just presentation.
Okay, Commissioner Thier?
A couple questions. The Oak Avenue pavers that's along street, this estimate for about $700,000, is it the entire Oak Avenue from the ocean all the way out to Third, or is it a section?
Well, the pictogram showed, I think,
Yeah, it's a small section of it. It's a 30-foot by 200-foot long section.
So 200 feet, yeah.
it's just barely.
Ocean block,
barely,
that's it?
Again.
So this is well,
Yeah.
so, okay, so this is another question, right? So first flush shows Oak Avenue. I'm trying to understand, because I see are you also building a trench there?
Underneath the pavers will be it will be excavated and backfilled with stone, which allows for the stormwater to drop down into there and be stored in the stone area and then percolate down into the sand beyond that. So it's going to catch the first flush of rain, and when it does fill up, it will overflow into the stormwater system. The rest will sit there and then permeate down into the sand after the storm.
Okay.
Let me ask, Greg, is that any different than our permeable pavement out in the parking lot?
Shouldn't be. I haven't looked at the design of that, Mayor, but.
Same thing, it sounds like.
And again, we were looking for small pilots, so if the city wanted to extend this, but the idea was to test it, because some municipalities have had issues with pavers, and they can become a maintenance issue if they're not constructed correctly.
The idea behind the pavers is it might actually be more effective than the permeable pavement we have in the parking lot, because that ends up getting clogged the way that it's compacted. So we do have to clean it, which probably need to look at again. Yeah.
Okay. So here's my comment and my couple asks. So one is, I feel like I've been waiting for this forever, right? I've been on the commission for a year and a half now. I feel like I've been waiting this for a year and a half. I was expecting, I think Commissioner Stewart was the first one that mentioned this. I was expecting, a master plan, right? What I'm getting here is, maybe you try this, maybe you try this. And I don't want to say maybe you try this. Let me use the terms. Let's pilot this, let's pilot that. And some of these pilots probably seem reasonable to me, but I need to understand what the bigger picture is, right? What's the plan? What are all the projects? What's the estimated cost? Tell me how we should be sequencing them so we're not all up here, trying to figure out and guess what we should or should be not doing. And then ultimately, the total cost. Lake Girard, as it was mentioned, I am part of this team that tests the lakes weekly during the summer. Yeah, to me, it's not just dredging the lake, and I think this is part of the plan. Yes, does the lake need to be dredged? Absolutely. But we need to address that entire ecosystem around the lake. As Ms. Cole has mentioned, the buffer's out of control in certain areas. Some of it's 20 feet wide. The research I've done, and again, I'm not an expert, but I think they suggest 8 to 10 feet or something like that. You've got invasive species in that buffer. It doesn't seem like there's any maintenance of that buffer at all. My understanding is we have, and Henry's around here somewhere, we have one stormwater scepter on that lake, or do we have two? We do. So the septors will help to remove sediment so it doesn't end up in the lakes. My point here is if we're going to spend $1 million to dredge the lake, we got to address the entire ecosystem so that we're not just throwing money away, which comes back to this broader plan. So what I'd like is, I'm not going to put you on the spot today, but I will on the 9th. When can you come back to us with a plan, right? Because really that's what I was expecting today. Two additional things, and then I'll move. Two additional things I've got. So one is keep the streets clean. Okay, Rehoboth Avenue, I suspect, is probably one of the largest sources of the contaminants that go in. Maybe we should be, not allowing parking a couple of days a week from 12 midnight to 4 in the morning. Again, I'm just throwing an idea out there and get our street sweeper out there and really clean that street a couple of times a week. Again, just throwing it out as a suggestion, as an option, right? And then grease traps, I know Corey is working on grease traps. Again, I know that his team is, they're really busy. So how can we more effectively attack grease traps, particularly in the summer? I mean, is that something we should contract out? Have somebody come in, maybe even for the foreseeable future, to come in and check those grease traps on a more regular basis. And again, just throwing an again, I'm putting an potential solution out there. I'm not saying that should be the solution. So plan. That's the big one. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Susan.
I just want to be clear on what our next steps are. Mr. Tedder.
So ultimately, we will speak more with GHD about path forward based on all your comments today.
So that we can determine what to put on future agendas.
And
I think
really
it's
budget.
a master plan, right? I see there is something in here labeled master plan, but I believe that it's lacking information, and just use that term generally. I'm looking for an entire master plan, right? What are all the projects that we could potentially do, including the pilots? I'm not opposed to piloting things, but I want some sort of strategy behind it, right? Doing permeable pavers on Oak for $700,000 to do 200 yards, that's like $200 million. Again, I'm just being facetious. It's like $100 million to do the entire city. So
200 feet or
200 feet
200 feet.
by 30.
200 feet.
That's just an initial cost, but yeah, it's expensive.
it's expensive. So it doesn't even make sense to pilot something that isn't feasible for this city, right? So again, I'm not opposed to pilots, but again, kind of back to this master plan. What are all the potential things we could do? If you want to pilot something, let's make sure what we're going to pilot is feasible. And same thing with the projects that you put in here. I think it's fine to propose things to us that are projects, but to say, hey, this is going to be really expensive, maybe it's not feasible. So I would look for, I would look for you to come back on the 9th, right? Simply because I've been waiting 1.5 years for this. I'd look for you to come back on the 9th with at least communicating to us what's the direction. I appreciate you can't come back with a plan on the 9th, but how are we going to move forward?
Mr. Mayor?
Susan.
Thank you, Mayor. I took the pilot, you wouldn't do the whole city unless we were, oil magnets, correct? You're going to take patches of low-lying areas. Like, if that worked, your idea wasn't to do the whole city. Your idea was we'd put some in a low spot, a bad spot, wherever we're having trouble.
Or maybe, Rehoboth Beach or Rehoboth Avenue is a hot spot.
Right, exactly.
Maybe Rehoboth Avenue.
That actually seems kind of, in a way, you're not having to dig, you're not having to replace big pipes. It's kind of a scalable, while it seems expensive for its size, if it's effective and you deploy them, it may in effect be a pretty efficient result.
Yeah, and this is... Mayor, if I could, please?
Sure.
Yeah, so this is great dialogue, right? So I don't want like I said with the pilot, right, $700,000, but I think Commissioner Stewart brings up a good point, right? Maybe there are some hot spots within the city or some real problem areas where it would make sense to do something like this, even pilot something like this. So that needs to be part of the plan, right? You know, okay, where are our real trouble areas? And how in the plan do we address those?
And I think it's a great statement and a great, and, you know, but one of the things that we were talking about as a team is that, you know, there was, we didn't want to go and make a recommendation to do, you know, let's do pavers across all of Rehoboth Avenue and spend that money, and then 6 months later have them buckling and having all kinds of issues, right? That's a non-starter. We've got it. You know, the city wanted to test it to make sure it was going to be suitable for that application, and that's a conservative. It's a good methodology in my opinion. So that's really what these pilots were meant to present, and so yeah, I think we could look to relocate them into hotter spots. Now, this is not a really high traffic area, right? So this is kind of more of a residential area. If we wanted to, we could put a smaller section in a high traffic area to see how that stands up.
But I'm going to say the following, and this may not be fair, but somebody in here is the engineer, okay? I'd be reluctant to pilot something that hasn't been done elsewhere. I wouldn't want to be the first person to do it. And same thing with like permeable pavers. I would think somebody would know, hey, you don't want to put those in Rehoboth Avenue because of X, Y, and Z, or you wouldn't want to put them in a particular area because X, Y, and Z.
We evaluated that as part of this, okay? So we have found multiple locations for permeable paver systems here that would likely have a high chance of being suitable for Rehoboth Avenue. One of the issues they have is they do have issues with high speed. So if you're going over 35 miles an hour, and then you hit the brakes and you're on a permeable pavers, they tend to cause them to buckle and move. But we really don't have that speed on Rehoboth Avenue.
Pretty close.
Yeah. So it's a question, you know, and so, but you know, yeah, we have found multiple locations and talked that through with the city during this discussion. So it's not like this is the first. No, we're just, you know, the city also wanted to sample it and test it too. They didn't want to go dig up Rehoboth Avenue in the beginning and start with that.
Commissioner Galante.
Yeah, thanks. So when the presentation started, you went through your project purpose and goals, and the fourth bullet on that second slide is to prepare for future MS4 regulatory requirements. Yet the city doesn't have an MS4 program. I am sort of thinking about the current regulatory climate and expecting that there won't be additional MS regulatory requirements. But nonetheless, the goals of an MS4 regulatory program are noteworthy and important, and ones that I really suggest we evaluate when we're looking at our master plan. I support a lot of the comments that my fellow commissioners have made. I think they make sense, but just to sort of hit at a very, very high level what an MS4 program is supposed to include. Number one, increase awareness. I think Ms. Conacy, Ms. Cole talked a little bit about that. Second, promote practices to manage stormwater, which are a lot of the recommendations that, you know, are included in your presentation. They're good, they make sense to me, but let's think about them holistically. And then lastly, inspire investment in the community. So, you know, step back and think about this more holistically and in a way that will, you know, really get at the issues of stormwater management within the city. So, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Good.
Well, with all due respect to GHD, I regret that this has been undertaken because I don't feel we have we're going to have the means over the next decade. And I feel we have good options that are affordable that have been mapped out for us, it seems, you didn't, maybe gave a cursory look to those, but even with the Lake Gerard dredging, that could be put out to bid, like, we don't need a lot of guidance on that one. So I would like to make a motion that at the March 9th meeting, we consider an ordinance to mandate pervious cover for all new construction sidewalks and driveways and all do-overs, renovate, people redoing their driveways and or sidewalks, like to take action that actually reduces the stormwater runoff. Because I feel we now have this like 80-page report. For instance, just as one example, this 200 by 30 feet, I didn't realize it's at Oak Avenue and 3rd Street, which I was not aware. I walked by, that's not an area that I'm aware of that floods as often as many others. Like, in fact, that would be like, why was Oak Avenue between 3rd and 2nd chosen as well-suited to trying out these pavers?
Yeah, go ahead.
That area was chosen. There is flooding in that area on the south side around the 82, 84 Oak. We've seen it fairly significantly at times. And that's an area where also it's coming to a stop and turning. We like Jeff mentioned about the 35 miles an hour, that it would be, people wouldn't be traveling at high speeds. So,
I mean, it also happens to be a stretch where there are several of the lots are far in excess of 5,000 square feet. So they have an ability to absorb stormwater normally a lot better. So well, anyway, so for that cost, it's just beyond what this city can probably manage. So I think throwing $700,000 at a project, which if it were to be rolled out across the city, we're talking $8 to $10 million or something. I mean, why would we want to throw money at something that we know we can't possibly implement ever? Well, at least in the next short term, 20, 30 years or something.
Commissioner Good, you realize you started a motion, and then you interrupted yourself, and you've been talking incessantly.
Okay.
Can you come back to the motion or
I would
withdraw
like,
it?
I would like to make a motion that at the March 9th meeting, there be prepared an ordinance at long last to mandate pervious cover for new construction, driveways and sidewalks, as well as for renovations of driveways and sidewalks.
Help me understand your motion. Your motion is that if it was favorable tonight, that the lawyer would come forward with an ordinance at the March 9th meeting.
Indeed, and we could piggyback on Dewey Beach, which I think their language would probably be sufficient. They adopted something similar, I think, over 5 years ago.
Do we have time, and Lisa prepare something like that?
I'm sure we can if Dewey Beach has it.
I second.
Okay. So we have a motion by Commissioner Suzanne Good and a second by Commissioner Susan Stewart, that we direct the city solicitor to draft an ordinance
To mandate pervious
mandating
cover in the
permeable
city of
cover.
Rehoboth Beach for all new construction, driveways, walkways, sidewalks,
Okay.
maybe outdoor shower areas too.
No, don't embellish. All righty, so, is there anybody, huh?
Patios.
Yeah, and then I want to go to the public before we vote. Commissioner Saunders?
I don't know anything about impervious, and I wouldn't be able to vote on it without some education, right? I mean,
Impervious
I'd
or
like to know
pervious?
what cost it's going to add to a house. I would want to know, is it a practical thing? I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but I don't think 2 weeks is enough time to educate us. Now, if we could maybe be educated at the meeting of the 9th, having some experts, having some people from the public, builders and whatever, give us the pros and cons and then vote it at the following week, well, the following meeting, I'd be fine. But I don't think in 2 weeks, I'm ready to vote on something I don't know anything about.
Well, the motion indicates directing the city solicitor to draft. It doesn't say that we have to vote on it or vote yes or no on it at the next meeting, so that could go.
Let's vote, and then I'll amend that we get some education.
But I'd like to go to the members of the public before we go forward. Jan, you have a pervious driveway.
I do. Jan Conacy, 42 Oak Avenue.
Perhaps you can explain, my original thought of a pervious driveway was you excavate it, you put a little stone dust there, and then you have pervious type bricks that lets the rainwater filter through. Jan, can you explain
All right,
your
we have a
system?
driveway, and I know Mark has been in our driveway. It's fat, but it doesn't extend all the way to the back. So it's wide for 2 cars. I don't know how wide it is. We've never gone 35 miles an hour on it because it's our driveway. However, it has trucks on it and everything else. It's pervious pavers. It's been there at least 4 years. And you go down about this far, and kind of like he was saying on the, on the ones you were talking about on Oak Avenue, and I don't see much flooding there either, but anyway. And you go down all these layers. So it's been there 4 or 5 years. We have never had any problems with it. I don't have, flowers growing up through it. If there is a weed every so often, I pull it out. So it's great. We, on the Board of Adjustment, mandated that when the Belmore came to us and said, that they were actually had this huge handicapped audience, which I've never seen, but they wanted to cement around their pool for wheelchairs. And we mandated, we allowed them to do it only. Everything had to be pervious pavers. And so that's probably been 4 or 5 years too. Ron Bowman and John Swift over on Henlopen Avenue, they opted for a pervious driveway. And it cost a little bit more, not $700,000. And it's the same thing, the water just goes right through. It's like a miracle, And we, on this committee that Susan and Suzanne were on, and I was on, we wanted you all, some of you who weren't there, but to pass an ordinance saying that all new construction had everything that was, hard surfaced had to be pervious. Everybody does it now. It's not like a big deal. They've been doing it in Florida as, when I was on the city commission, that was a long, long time ago. And they were doing pervious in Florida. So I will say that, I would support Susan and Suzanne in their ordinance, and something we should have done a long time ago. Look at all the construction. I mean, I've had a house building next door to me for 2.5 years, It still isn't done. All the construction that's been done in Rehoboth, and we could have had pervious for everything. These are not asphalt. I don't know anything about asphalt. But in Waukulla County, I mean, they used to let people build more if everything was pervious. So for us not to do that, it's a no-brainer. I will also add, I think these contracts for this kind of thing should be bidded and discussed in public before they're
Thank you, Jan.
accepted.
Anybody else? So we'll come back here. We have a motion and a second on the floor. I'm not going to repeat it unless anybody wants to. We're going to do a roll call vote, rotated. Commissioner Saunders?
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett?
Aye.
Commissioner Thier?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart?
Aye.
Commissioner Galante?
Aye.
Commissioner Good?
Vote aye, and in addition, I think the aesthetics and the character of the town will be improved to boot, so it's win-win.
And the chair votes aye. The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Suzanne.
Mayor,
Commissioner Gossett.
thank you.
Yes,
If I
sir.
may, I've been listening here and reflecting on this, and a master plan certainly is something that I hope we accomplish in the near future. But it seems to me that the biggest impact that we could make right now would be to dredge Lake Gerard. We have money in the budget for the up near Cranberry Park. We also are going to be building a fishing pier where we will have equipment in the water for removing and replacing pier studs. DENREC is dredging the canal and person areas, so there could be a joint participation with them about where to put the spoils or using the same contractor that they're using. I think just to investigate this, we have, a projection of almost $300 million here of projects, and I appreciate things that may work, but, it's not the term of low-hanging fruit, because it certainly isn't, but I think the impact that fully dredging Lake Gerard would have on our water quality would have the most impact quickest, if we can. It's not quick, because it's going to take a couple years probably, but that would have the greatest impact, and I think would be the wisest money that we have spent in stormwater management in the city. So I would ask perhaps if if there are other support of that of my fellow commissioners, but directing the city manager to, in a reasonable amount of time, see if we could obtain a cost estimate to completely dredge Lake Gerard. Thank you.
Commissioner Stewart?
I'm totally in support of that, but I guess I have a question. Why not Silver Lake too? Have we made a conscious decision that it doesn't need anything and it's fine? Okay.
Silver Lake has the 3 jurisdictions.
Okay.
So that's a little harder to address.
Yeah, so Lake Gerard is owned by the city, and of course, we have to coordinate with DENREC and a proper permitting with the Corps and things of that nature, but yeah, we have the most control over Lake Gerard.
Mayor, if I could.
Commissioner there?
Yeah, listen, I said this earlier, I support dredging the entire lake, but there's more to it than just dredging a lake, right? We got to look at the buffer, other things. So yes, dredge the lake. I'd like, as Commissioner Gossett has requested, cost to dredge the lake, but it's not just about the lake. It's about that whole ecosystem there, which may not be the right term. Buffer, everything else. Let's clean it up, figure out how we're going to maintain it going forward.
Thank you. Max?
Yeah, so Commissioner, when you made that you wanted an ordinance, I let it go, because even though it wasn't on the agenda, because it was pertinent to the discussion, you weren't going to adopt it. Now we've sort of, at least in my view, moved into sort of action items on where we want to go, and I think that needs to be on an agenda and discussed. I think the city manager's got his direction, right? But we're starting to stray from the topics on the agenda. And I'm like that grandparent who has the kids. I'm only here for a day or two, so I can let more go these days.
Thank you. So with that, I would say we have enough direction that we can move to the next topic. Is that all right? And the next topic is future agenda. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, I just have one experience comment I'd like to give to the commissioners, is that dredging Lake Gerard, to do that, I've been involved in quite a few dredging projects, and, you really need to do a bathymetry survey of the entire lake to determine exactly what, if you have that and it's recent, it really should be recent, probably within the last year or two.
Recent.
You should do that, and then have an official calculation done of the amount of material there that's going to be removed.
Yeah.
Because when you issue a contract and they get mobilized and say there isn't that volume of material that you said was going to be there, you can be hit with change orders. Likewise, if there's twice as much material than you envisioned, you're going to hit with change orders and delays and things of that nature. So it's pretty important to be precise in the amount of volume that you're going to have and some sampling to make sure if there are any contaminants in there that are concerned, that's a lot more expensive to dispose of than if it's just dredge spoil.
Sounds good. Great.
So be careful.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you,
Mayor?
Jeff. We appreciate you coming today.
Mr. Mayor, if this contaminants, could you give us examples of what contaminants you would anticipate? I mean, I worry more about mosquito breeding grounds around that lake in the summer than about what's underneath.
Ideally, there shouldn't be any, but Jay was making comments about heavy metals. I don't have the history here. I haven't been in Rehoboth Beach. I would expect there wouldn't be any, but I would also test it, due diligence, to verify that we're not going to get in a problem when the contract is let. Because if they get all their equipment out of here and they do sampling and testing as they're pulling it out of there, and all of a sudden you hit something, you're like, it's going to stop everything, but their equipment's going to want to get paid for. So there's due diligence that's required.
Well, we could take it under advisement, but it doesn't mean that we're committed now to do this sampling ahead of this. This is a small scale project in my view. Like, it's not like a
Dredging
huge,
the whole lake?
well, small scale compared to some other, in terms of the amount of money it's gonna cost. So to me, I'm not sure I'm not always comfortable with spending a lot of money, prospecting ahead of a project like that. Now, sometimes that's a mistake. We found, like with the lifeguard station, it wasn't known that a lot of concrete coping was under there, but with the lake, I don't know. But thanks, and I appreciate that, and I am looking mostly toward the aesthetics and the problems with ticks and mosquitoes in that area, which I think will be alleviated a bit by having, better water flow and just a better situation ecologically there.
Thank you, Suzanne. With that, we're going to close that topic and move on to future agenda topics. This is on there. Just be mindful that you can always contact the mayor or the city manager anytime to add things or consider adding things to it. Is there any?
Yeah, I got if I could,
Commissioner
please.
here?
Given we only have one and now potentially two items for our meeting on the 9th, well, really one, again, for the, what I think we're calling a commissioners meeting on the 9th. Looks like we have one item, maybe a second one, and then we have a second meeting that day for the budget. Could we combine, and again, everyone would have to agree to it, but can we combine those meetings instead of having two meetings that day? Or do one after the other?
We need to look at our list of what's on the March.
Well, why isn't it, if you've got more than one item on here, why is it not on the future agenda items list? Simple question.
Because unless it comes from this group, it doesn't get on my list.
Well, your list should be on here as well. And we've had this conversation multiple times.
Yeah, that,
right? I
that
can't,
is-
this is about transparency. It's about transparency for the other 6 of us that are up here. We have no idea what's going on, as well as transparency for all the people out there. I'm not going to drone on. I have just a question on the table. If we only have one item, which is to proclaim Women's History Month, can we just combine the meetings to have one meeting that day or two that go right after each other, rather than one in the morning, one in the afternoon? And again, I'll just stop talking and see what the rest of my colleagues would prefer. So
Yeah.
I'd strongly prefer just have one meeting if we could.
So we were potentially looking at, if Corey's ready for talking about the aged building safety inspections. That's currently listed as April 6th. We were looking at potentially moving that to the 9th. But even if that is the case, I don't see any issue with combining them.
Thoughts from everyone else?
Fine. And Mr. Mayor, I had something to add to that agenda.
Susan Stewart. Thanks.
I'm very supportive of that, and I just appreciate it, because we had such a big gap between meetings today that it's just a waste of everyone's time. So I'd appreciate it when we can, and with enough notice, if we either roll through or convene and end and start again.
What is the expectation, to combine them both starting at 9 or at 2?
9?
9.
Okay. No lunch.
Mr. Mayor, it just.
Commissioner Good?
I know maybe we're trying to truncate the non-budget part of that, but I was hoping, since I don't think Mr. Miller is going to have time before like Memorial Day to figure out what to do about these news racks. I've given up hope on that. So I'm hoping we can discuss serious attempts to free up the sidewalks and move some of those newsstands either to the pagoda, in front of the lifeguard station, places where they aren't obstructing the sidewalk on the north side in the Ocean Block, which is one of the most heavily trafficked areas of Rehoboth Avenue, with like Thrasher's French Fries and Louis Pizza. So I was hoping we could consider, I know Mr. Tedder did remove some of the news stands. However, they were not consolidated. So we have like a gap in between, like 4 on one side, 3 on the other. So we still have a lot of obstructions on our sidewalks, which seems just, there's no reason to have this sort of clutter that takes up more space than it needs to. So would that be something we could address on March 9th to be sure to have some improvement by whatever, May 1st, Memorial Day, rather than waiting until this news rack proposal is brought forth? I mean, do you have a date for when the news rack proposal will be ready? Because it's been months since this topic was first addressed. Months and months. I think it was back in October.
I don't have anything on my plate for that.
Hopefully it won't add a lot to the March 9th meeting. If we could get a consensus to try to declutter the sidewalks very, like, by, I don't know, by May 1st, you know, something like that.
Well,
Yeah, we don't have news racks as a future agenda topic. I went out with the Public Works guys, filled up 2 truckloads of news racks, got them off the streets. If this board wishes to bring it up again, staff would be more than happy to help.
Well, I want to, sorry, may I have? My concern is we spent a lot of time on it.
Look, I don't want.
And
if
we
we're
basically were.
Suzanne, we're going to put it on the agenda.
Great.
That's your
So
time.
it will be a
that's your time
short
to talk
topic.
about.
It really is not a complex
Then you
issue.
don't need to continue here. Thank you. With that, is there anybody else? Hey, we can hear you all down here. Carolyn?
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident, but I just want to mention, on March 9th, you all have already told the community partners, Main Street being one, what time they have to be here to do their presentation. If you're going to change that, you need to change it soon, because I know our president, for example, has a job. She has made her schedule that day to be able to be here in the afternoon. So if you're going to change it, you need to do it really soon, because people have already adjusted their schedules. Thank you.
Do it at 2.
I'm all for.
Mr. Mayor, 2 o'clock,
I'm all
how
for
about then, in
leaving
that
it
case?
alone.
Mayor? Might an elegant solution be that we have the meeting at 2? Or at
second that.
1? We start at 1 and then take the community partners at 2?
Do all the budget, start at 2. Well, we've said 2, start at 2. Do all the budget stuff first and then go into the
Yeah, we can
commissioners'
talk about it, but ultimately, I think the presentations for the budget, community partners should be at the same time that we've already told them for months about.
That
So
makes sense.
we'll prioritize that, and if, we'll put out notices.
Say we put the other behind, just reversing it. All righty, with that, I want to move on to review future meeting dates. Monday, March 9th, and did you have something else? Monday, March 9th, we were just talking about the meeting, so we'll gel that. And with that, we get to citizen comment. This is your opportunity for things off topic.
Yes, thank you. Susan Gay, city homeowner. Today, my comments are in my capacity as president of the Rehoboth Beach Homeowners Association. And I sent you all a letter a few days ago, and I'm just going to read some excerpts of it to go on the record, since this was not an agenda item today. We, the RBHA, respectfully request that the city consider allowing members of the newly formed advisory committees to participate in meetings remotely, leveraging technology to enable participation from other locations. Rehoboth Beach is a community with many part-time residents and even full-time residents who travel regularly and are not in Rehoboth Beach full-time. These residents all bring valuable perspectives, particularly on issues that affect the long-term future of our city. So allowing remote participation would ensure their voices and expertise remain part of the conversation, even when they are not physically in Rehoboth Beach. The city already has both the experience and the infrastructure to support this approach. During COVID, which I remember all too well, conducting city business successfully using remote technology was done routinely. And today, even, there are other examples of successful meetings held in this manner, most notably the Rehoboth Beach Lewis Police Accountability Committee, which has operated since its inception using this hybrid model. And in addition, this very room was designed specifically to support remote participation in city meetings. So our request would be to simply extend that existing and proven capability to an advisory committee. In fact, we propose that the city pilot this approach, perhaps with one advisory committee. A pilot project would allow the city to identify and resolve any operational challenges and determine best practices before considering whether the approach could be expanded to other committees. Allowing remote participation would significantly strengthen recruitment for city committees as well. Many qualified residents have professional commitments that make regular in-person attendance difficult. So a hybrid model would broaden the pool of candidates willing to serve and increase the diversity of professional backgrounds and viewpoints represented on committees. We recognize that some may feel in-person meetings are more effective, and that perspective is certainly respected. But a pilot program provides a balanced way forward, allowing the city to test the model, evaluate the effectiveness, and make data-informed decisions based on real experience rather than theory. So I thank you for your thoughtful consideration of this request and for your continued commitment to inclusive, effective, and forward-looking governance. And I'll just add one thing, 7 whole seconds left. I'll add one thing that was not in the letter, and that is that the Rehoboth Beach Homeowners Association uses a hybrid approach for all of our board meetings, and I don't think we could operate unless we did that. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. There's some logistics to work out with something like that, and Taylor's been looking into that. Taylor, you want to?
Yeah, so good afternoon. So we are going to move forward with piloting that with Commissioner Thier's committee. Since police chief wanted to use our room as well, so he didn't have to go to Lewis every time they had the police accountability committee. So we know it works. We are going to try it. We're shooting for the March meeting of that committee, where committee members that are not in person can participate. So it's just to increase the public, the participation of those residents that are on the committee, because their voices are valuable. So.
Thank you very much.
With that, we'll move on to
One more.
Can I stay here, or do I need to come up there? Figures.
Can't hear it online unless you talk in the microphone.
I'm Jay LeGree, and I live on Prospect Street. What?
Microphone.
that microphone.
Is it off?
No, it needs to be near you.
You got it.
I'm Jay LeGree, and I still live on Prospect Street. Is this better?
Yes.
There is something about having a meeting face-to-face that brings out a cooperation, congeniality, give and take that might not happen at a remote meeting. People will say things at a remote meeting that they would never say if they were sitting beside you. However, I think we're in a strata of folks who would and do be considerate, whether you're on remote or whether you're face-to-face or wherever you are. The Historical Society's been having remote meetings we've been having those for what, a couple of years now, and they work okay, but everybody has to be where we can all see and hear one another. That adds a lot. If you have somebody out in left field that you can't see or hear, it just doesn't work. So with that in mind, I go along with Susan carefully. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Jay. Anybody else? If not, we'll move on. Next item of business is commissioner announcements. Anything? These are just brief announcements. Walter's memorial service is tomorrow at noon at the firehouse. FYI, the city has sent a very nice wreath and arrangement over there for tomorrow's ceremony. With that, there being no further business, adjourn the meeting at 4:55 p.m. Thank you very much.